that there's a crew in town. The head hillbillies are making their rounds. Small town whispers loud and clear. The sheriff shot the judge in his chambers chair.
Sheriff got a secret he won't keep. Judge shot dead in his disbelief. A lot of people have some stories to tell. Dark passed away, get the sound of a shotgun shell.
All the secrets spill on down. Voices loud in this old town. From the courthouse to the ground. Rumors fly and they can't be bound.
Neighbors hide behind their blinds. Whisper tales of troubled minds. Skeletons covering the mountainside. A treacherous reality in the pines.
Winter reveals the hidden lies. Moonlight couldn't mask their cries. Shadows caught in sunlit skies. There's no cover, no disguise. All the secrets spill on down. Voices loud in this old town. From the courthouse to the ground. Rumors fly and they can't be
Winter reveals the hidden lie. Moonlight could mask their cries. Shadows caught in sunlit skies. There's no cover, no disguise.
all the secrets spill on down. Voices loud in this old town. From the courthouse to the ground. Rumors fly and they can't be bound.
Hello, everybody. How are you this evening? Welcome to the channel. My name is Elizabeth, and this is Hillbilly Crime. Do my best little intro there. How is everybody? Y'all doing all right this evening? Praise the Lord, praise the Lord. We're here another day. God woke me up this morning once again. Thank you, Jesus. All right, guys. Well, let's see. The guilty shadows. Exploring the guilty shadows. That's what we are going to be talking about tonight. Now, so we are anticipating a big interview that we talked about last night. Well, we're going to talk about what happens when people speak out. Okay, we already know, but whenever people do start to speak out and start to tell and come forward and tell what happened to them and what their experience was, oftentimes, one of the things that I said yesterday was, especially in these kinds of areas, these rural areas of Appalachia, everybody's related to each other. Everybody's friends with each other. And if they're not immediately related to each other, they are married into families. So when people start speaking out about things that happen to them, It makes others uncomfortable, even in the family. Now, yesterday I said, you guys have to understand and remember who we're talking about here. These are our daddies. These are our fathers. These are our brothers. These are our sons, uncles, nephews, you name it. They're the family members. They are they have loved ones who care about them and love them. And then they have children, which is oftentimes used to silence people. So we are not going to hear the interview tonight, but that does not mean that it's not happening. It is happening. Logistics just kind of have to get in the way. So in the next couple of days, that will take place. But this evening, it just didn't happen. You know, but one of the things that I wanted to say is it's not fair. It's not fair to these women who have stayed silent for so long. And then now, but well, you know, they've told it to certain members of their family, you know, and some people who listen. The interview that we're getting ready to hear in the next couple of days, she said that she told a candidate for an office who employed her abuser, and she told him everything during his campaign, and that he promised her and assured her that if he won that office, he would make sure that they would not continue to be employed there. And come to find out, as soon as he won the election, that was the very first person that he rehired. You cannot even make this up. I started to giggle there, but you know, it's not funny. This is sad. This is very sad. It's very inappropriate. You know, I understand that it makes people feel uncomfortable. You know, it's just going to have to make you feel uncomfortable. To then, now that we have a platform, now that we have people who are listening, who can actually do something about it, before nobody could do anything about it. Nobody would do anything about it. And they all say what you want, what they think you want to hear at the time, face to face. See, this is one reason why they don't like me. Everybody talks behind their backs, and they'll say it privately. But when they get out into public, it's a completely different thing. When it comes to them saying it to someone's face, they can't do it, or they won't do it. Well, you know, where's your integrity? Where's your backbone as men? Just as men, as human beings. We have every right to expect our public officials and people who are hired in positions of authority to not sexually abuse those that are in those vulnerable positions. Here, I'm going to share, we're going to look at a couple different things, several things. This is from the National Sheriff's Association, PREA. Now, I don't know if any of you all know what PREA stands for, but what is PREA? It is the Prison R Word Elimination Act. PREA of 2003. So this has been in place for a very long time. It is a federal law established to address the elimination and the prevention of sexual assault and the R word in correctional systems. PREA applies to all federal, state, and local prisons, jails, police lockups, private facilities, and community settings such as residential facilities. So that would also be rehabs, I'm pretty sure. The major provisions of PREA are to develop standards for detection, prevention, reduction, and punishment of prison R word. Collect and disseminate information on the incidents of prison R word. Award grants and technical assistance to help state governments implement the act. Well, you know what? I'm a little bit sick and tired of grants. I think that the entire federal grant system, the way there's way too many nonprofits that are misappropriating a ton of money, a ton. Like the entire grant system, the entire way that they approve grant, that they give them, award them to the people that they award them to. There's no oversight over it. It's a white collar criminal's dream, all of it. And it's so rampant here in Letcher County. You think about how many nonprofits have popped up. And for-profits, shoot, they ain't even nonprofits anymore. They've turned them into for-profits and hooked them right in with our criminal justice system, right in with our local court systems. So they're all going to make the money. How does PREA apply to jails? PREA seeks to ensure that jails and other correctional settings protect inmates from sexual assault, sexual harassment, consensual smex with employees, and inmate sexual assault. These violations affect security and staff safety and pose long-term risks to inmates and staff inside jails and to the public when victimized inmates are released into the community. PREA requires jails to keep data regarding inmate sexual assaults, non-consensual sexual acts, and staff sexual misconduct. And then it just goes on in there. It's got this website here, has a whole bunch of different kinds of resources and data and stuff like that. And I put the link to it in the description of this video. So if anybody wants to go look at the PREA stuff, that's where you're going to find that. So we're talking about having the expectation that people that run for our elected office, don't do this kind of stuff. You think Mickey Steins, that was the Sheriff's Association, right? So we're talking about Mickey Steins. We're talking about Ben Fields. We're talking about several others who worked in the courthouse, lawyers. We're talking about defense attorneys. We're talking about other big roles that they filled. If you look at the videos that we saw after the shooting, it really shows you what kind of an environment they had turned that courthouse into. It was a hangout spot. It was a hangout spot. And it was all their little cliques. It was all everybody that was getting ready to, everybody that was making money. All of them was making money. They were all there for the rehab and the treatment purposes. I want to see the financials. I want to see them. I want to see the credit card statements. I want to see the gas. One of the things that you're going to hear, one of the things that I asked quite some time ago, I said, well, what would stop somebody from just driving their official vehicle everywhere and getting their gas that way? Well, if you worked for the city or the county or law enforcement, whatever, if you worked for any of them, you'd never have to pay for gas ever, right? Well, we got people that say that it was common that someone particular would use labor. Oh, hell. Listen, what we're talking about is a chain gang, a little slavery group, a little group of people that they could just take wherever and tell them what to do, and they did whatever they were told to do. And they didn't have no choice. Oh, don't want to let the cat out of the bag too early. There's going to be, listen, there better be some people going to prison. There better be some people going to prison. Yeah, that's my doggy snoring, y'all. I've got one that's on her last legs. She's been with us since my boys were about born. And it's not fair. Getting back to the beginning of the show, when I said when people are starting to come out, when people are finally telling their story and there's people to listen, we finally got a platform that they can tell their story and finally maybe get something done, right? Maybe get some kind of justice. Maybe just an investigation. If not that, hell, even if it's just to be heard, even if nothing ever comes of it, but they're just heard. It's not fair. It's not fair when other family members come and say, please don't. Please don't. That's not fair. That's not fair, because that's silencing that person. That's silencing that victim all over again, whether you realize it or not, whether they even intend, I'm sure they probably don't. But it's not fair. And everybody's going to have to make their own choice. Everybody's going to have to do what's best for them. But that's one reason why people don't come forward. Because they've got other family members that say, please don't. And so, then they're left to sacrifice again. Once again, they're silenced. Now, we have an interview, so it's not over, but, it's hard. People have to come forward and in their own pace, in their own time, and they have to just be ready. And, maybe each day they think they're going to be ready, and then they go to do it and they realize they're not ready yet. That can happen too, you know, so we're just going to have to take it as it comes and just know, be patient, and know that we're on it, honey. We own it. We are like a dog with a bone, baby. We ain't gonna let go of it. You better believe that. Not this one. Okay. Now, one of the things that we talk about a whole lot, you know, is the corruption and how these relationships and these connections, people who are related to each other in the courthouse, people who are friends. Listen, they don't even have to be friends. They can just be partners in crime. We had that legal aid lady the other day tell us that, you know, that was something that they did with their clients all the time, was lie to them constantly. That's what they did to their clients, was lie. She said that they would meet, the two attorneys would have lunch with their legal people, assistants, and she said they would have lunch and decide, okay, well, this is what we're going to do. She said we would plan how we could make the most money and how they could make the most money with the least amount of work, you know. And then they had a great lunch, great time planning this out. And then you go to your client and try to sell it to them, and I'm going to go to my client and try to sell it to them. And we're going to tell our clients, excuse me, we're going to tell our clients that we've just been fighting it out. We've been in court all day, duking it out, man. I've been fighting for you. Now give me $50,000. I mean, listen. And I was like, what? I was like, that doesn't sound right. She said, how many times do you think we would have an accident, like a car accident case? Now, this just blows my mind, blows me away. We have a car accident case, and the lawyer already has a relationship with those insurance companies, right? Because they've been in the system for a long time, the legal system, suing them and whatnot. So they've already got a relationship built with these insurance companies. So they talk to the insurance company. The insurance company says, hey, I'll give you $50,000. And this is just an example. I'm just coming up with a scenario. We'll give you $50,000 to not go all the way with us, right? We're going to pay the lawyer $50,000. And then the lawyer, on behalf of their client, the person who was in the accident, they're only going to sue the insurance company for, say, $20,000. That's all they're going to ask for. So, when in all actuality, they probably could have gotten $200,000, right? But the insurance company's going to give offer that lawyer $50,000. And then whenever the lawyer gets the $20,000 for the client from the insurance company, guess what he does then? He takes his percentage off of that too. So the lawyer gets $50,000 from the insurance company, and he gets about $8,000 from the poor client that was in the car accident, and the client only gets about $12,000. So the attorney gets $50,000 plus $8,000, and they're making out on both ends. I said, what? I said, that doesn't sound legal? She said, well, of course it ain't legal. She said, but they do it all day, every day, at just about every law office around. Very interesting. Very interesting. Then we start talking to our the lady who we're going to have our interview with, right? And the lady that we're going to have our interview with says, there were 3 of us in our family. And whenever my parents died, that should have there was some land, they lived up in a holler. And so that should have went 3 ways, their parents' stuff. Well, whenever they died, because one sibling was real good friends with the judge and whoever represented the lady. Oh, yeah, her lawyer even was in there on that thing. Uh-huh. And you just somehow that sibling ends up with 100% of everything. And the other 2 siblings are just out with nothing. Nothing. Big fat goose egg, baby. 0. Nothing. How is that right? And then whenever they ask their lawyer, their lawyer, the one that was actually in the courtroom with them, why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you speak up? And how did this happen? And they say, I don't know. I don't know how it happened. And that's their only response. There's no accountability. How many times do you think these lawyers have went into these courtrooms with these judges where it was all fixed beforehand? How many times do you think that's been happening around here? That's a good question. I don't know. Were Ashley Bentley and Lexi Bentley related? I do not know. That's a good question. So somebody's that's watching will sure let us know. Thank you, honey. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. So we heard Taya talking the other night about how she served 12 and a half years. I mean, nobody cared one bit. Like a 5-year difference on her sentence. So she thinks whenever she's taking her plea, whenever she's signing everything, whenever she's in court, accepting her sentence, she thinks, okay, I'm getting 7.5 years. I'm getting probation. This is what I think it is. She gets to prison. And they say, oh, no, honey, you got 12.5 years. And there's nothing that you can do about it. Yeah, I mean, this is just another example of the kind of abuse that is taking place in the Letcher County court system. Allegedly. But we'll say allegedly. But if we don't have any investigators that takes any of this stuff seriously, who's going to come investigate any of this? Who's going to hold anything accountable, anybody accountable? Who is going to stop this? We're getting ready to transfer this to this other case, Brian Gallagher case. Now, we talked about Brian Gallagher's case several weeks ago, and I didn't really say much else about it because he's still 15 years later. He was charged with red rum on a bogus case. an accident, a farming accident, that these prosecutors and whoever it was, social workers, we know who it was. We know who it was. Some bad decisions were made. Incompetent decisions were made. No questions asked by others. They just support whatever their coworker says. We'll back them 1,000%, even though it may not make any sense. We're still not gonna go against them. We're gonna look at this other case, and we're gonna look and see how this just continues to devastate people's lives. It devastates people's lives. Now, this was July 10th, 2025. This was the Lexington Herald Leader. They did this article. And it's on Brian's case. Moorhead Red Rum case faces myriad of delays for more than 15 years. A Moorhead Red Rum case involving a 2-year-old little boy has been pending for more than 15 years. All right, now I put the links to this stuff in the description. And since we've got so many people on our show tonight, I'm going to read this again, okay? Just so everybody knows what happened. This is unbelievable. Just a year after Nathaniel Jones was unalived, his mother, he died. His mother, Tia Jones, was charged with child abuse, and her boyfriend, Brian Gallagher, was charged with red rum. Jones accepted a plea deal in 2016, but Gallagher's case has stalled. Oh, and it's not going to let me read the whole thing there. Let me go over here and see this other one if it's going to do the same. Yep, it is. Okay, that's all right. Because I'm going to tell you, my explaining it might be a little bit easier anyway. So you have a 2-year-old little boy, and he has he goes to daycare. So he's at this daycare, and he's got tubes in his ears. He's a sickly little boy. He's only 2. He had a lot of medical problems, and I'm going to pull this out because I want to show you the physical. Okay, sometimes it takes just being able to see, physically see. This is the baby's medical records. This is how big the baby's medical records were. Now, I think he had lived in another state, and then he came down to Kentucky not long before he died. Now, the top one are his medical records from the state that he lived in before he came to Kentucky. This bottom one was the medical records from the state of Kentucky. They charged this mother with child abuse, with not taking care of her baby, with not getting him care. It's not true. Everything that they did on this case has been to cover up bad decisions in the beginning of the case. And let me grab this newspaper. And so the family, the day that this happened, the day that the accident happened, they had found a baby calf. Its mommy had died. The cow had died or abandoned it or something. And the little calf was left. And so they said, well, if you want that calf, then you'll have to go get some milk for it and you'll have to feed it. So Brian Gallagher and these little kids, they went and got some milk. They bring it back and they're bottle feeding this baby calf. And the older sister, which was about 8 years old, was bottle feeding this baby calf. Well, they were playing and they had it inside of a little enclosure, and that she was running around with that little bottle, getting that little calf to chase her. And Brian was standing there with the baby, the 2-year-old, and the little girl ran behind her daddy's legs, giggling and carrying on, trying to get away from the calf. And that calf went right over top of that baby, ran right over top of that baby and stepped on the baby's stomach. Now, it didn't kick the baby. It ran over the baby and it stepped on its belly. Well, they took the baby to the hospital. When they took the baby to the hospital, they ended up doing a CT scan of the head. They ordered x-rays of the body because he had tubes in his ears and he had some stuff going on with his ears. They ordered an x-ray of the body and the CT scan of the head. Well, when all that stuff came back, it had perforated his bowel, from what I've been able to gather. It perforated his bowel. Well, because they didn't do an MRI, which would have revealed the damage in the belly, they only did an x-ray. That did not show the damage that was done to that child internally. A week later, the baby died. The mother says later on, after they find out some more of the information, some stuff that had happened, the mommy says, man, I'm going to sue that hospital. Well, you got to remember, these are small towns. These are small communities. People's family members work in them hospitals. People's family members work in them social services departments. People's family members work in those courthouses. Law enforcement. So, the next thing you know, her and Brian are both being slapped with red rum charges, child abuse charges. And then, here, I've got a news report where the mommy ended up pleading guilty. She pled guilty in 2016, I think, is when she pled guilty. Let me find it here. We're going to look at it. Yeah, there it is. 2016. Mother takes plea deal in death of Rowan County toddler. 2 people. Maybe this one will be a better way. 2 people charged in the death of a Rowan County toddler were scheduled to enter a plea in the case on Friday. However, one suspect did not take that plea deal. Tia Jones entered an Alford plea in a Rowan County courtroom on Friday to reduce charges of second-degree criminal abuse. That means she agrees that there is enough evidence to convict her, but she does not admit any wrongdoing. The other person charged in this case, Brian Gallagher, was expected to enter a plea deal, but on Friday, his attorney asked for an extension because he's not guilty, because he did not do this. And if he didn't have his family supporting him the way that he's had his family to support him, this would have been 2 more people railroaded into prison for the rest of their lives. I mean, why? Because somebody made a mistake, or because somebody made a bad decision that they just absolutely refused to admit to? And so the cover-up began. Nobody wanted to get sued. Somebody wanted to help out a buddy. Well, heck, my dad was going to be pulled into that lawsuit, so I had to do what I had to do. You know, that's what we're talking about here in all of these cases. It's nepotism. So let me finish reading this. Let's see. It's been 7 years since 2-year-old Nathaniel Jones died at St. Clair Regional Medical Center in Moorhead. State police say Jones died of injuries to his stomach that he suffered while in the home shared by his mother and her then boyfriend. Tia Jones and Brian Gallagher were both indicted on charges of red rum and first-degree criminal abuse. The case was set to go to trial in June of last year, but that was delayed because of medical evidence. That was delayed because of medical evidence. I wonder what that means. Gallagher is due back in court on August 23rd in Montgomery County. He told WKYT that he wasn't sure what would happen during that hearing, but he has no intention of pleading guilty because he is innocent. Jones' attorney said taking a plea deal in the case was tough for her because she was innocent. But what do you think? She still has not been sentenced yet. She took her plea deal she signed her plea in 2016. Okay? This is 2025. She still has not been sentenced. Why? Because she probably in her plea deal agreed to testify against Brian. Well, what's she going to testify against him for? I mean, if they're both innocent, which I believe they are, so now you're going to try and get an innocent party to falsely accuse another innocent party. So now it's like you're encouraging perjury. How is this even justice? How is any of it justice? We've got some hearings that we're going to watch. We're going to watch the Daubert hearing in a previous case of Brian's, or not a previous case, but a previous hearing of Brian, where they were trying to get the expert witness. And the way that this man became part of the case, his daughter was a social worker. His daughter, even though the original doctor said, no, this is not child abuse. No. She decides to then go ask her daddy. Social worker decides to then go ask her daddy to help out and take a look at this case. And he's the one who pushed every bit of this and said it was child abuse. Oh, y'all, it's just unbelievable. It's a tragic time in Tia's life to lose a son and to be indicted for it. Certainly a heartbreaking scenario to go through. But it has come to the point where we felt this was the best thing to do. And she was in agreement with that, said Ben Shields. So that must be her attorney. The recommended sentence for Jones was 4 years for each of those counts of criminal abuse. She will serve those sentences back to back. For an innocent woman? All right, so we're going to watch this hearing. There were 2 of them. Let's see. Let me pull up paper here and see what I marked a couple places. 32. Now, the prosecutor that is in this, the prosecutor who started on this case is that Prosecutor Goldie guy. And let me pull it up, and that way I can show you all. He is in prison. Prison sentence. Let me read it. All right. Kentucky prosecutor Ronnie Goldie, who previously served as Commonwealth's attorney for Rowan, Bath, Menifee, and Montgomery counties, was sentenced to 41 months in prison in May 2024. Goldie was convicted of 14 counts, including bribery and wire fraud, related to allegations of doing favors for a criminal defendant in exchange for nude photos and videos. Goldie had requested a shorter sentence, of course he did, citing his mother's cancer diagnosis. I mean, I just don't get it. I don't get it. Let me stop sharing this. I don't understand why people think they're just so entitled. You know, they're so entitled. They're so above the law. You know, so much better than the rest of us that the rules do not apply to them. All right. So let me show you. This is Ronnie Goldie. This is the prosecutor on Brian's case. Okay? And he was the original prosecutor on Brian's case. This was just last year, 2024. A former Kentucky prosecutor convicted of doing legal favors in exchange for sexual photos has learned his fate. Man, we got some really awesome Kentucky prosecutors, don't we? And judges and defense attorneys. In February, a federal jury found former Commonwealth's attorney Ronnie Goldie guilty of 14 counts, including bribery and wire fraud. Goldie was sentenced to 41 months in prison on Friday, but he will not have to pay any fines. Well, ain't that special? Goldie was sentenced to, I already said that. Goldie was Commonwealth's attorney for Bath, Rowan, Menifee, and Montgomery counties. Earlier this month, he requested leniency and asked to serve only 33 months. He said he wanted to spend more time with his mommy, who was battling cancer. Because, you know, so many of our own people whose parents were dying of cancer they didn't get shorter sentences so they could go see their mummies. You know, just makes me, the audacity, you know, the audacity is what makes me so upset. Like, how dare you? How dare you? Man, just gotta give it to God, y'all. Some people, you just gotta give it to God. All right. The judge in Friday's hearing said committing crimes like these have collateral consequences. We thought the way it came out was fair and just that Judge Reeves took into consideration the arguments of the government and our arguments, said Goldie's attorney. That don't even make no sense. Mike Curtis. Let's bring this up. You hear that? Who was Goldie's attorney? Mike Curtis. Well, who do you think Mike Curtis was? Mike Curtis was Brian Gallagher's attorney. Now, how can Brian Gallagher's defense attorney also represent the prosecutor who brought the red rum case against Brian in the first place? Does that even sound even a little bit right? No, it don't. It sounds a lot like Matt Butler being Patrick Little's defense attorney when he's slapped with all of them sex abuse charges of minors. And then he gets appointed prosecutor. And after he gets appointed prosecutor, it looks to me like he negotiates Patrick Little's plea bargain. All that never serves one day in jail. Not one day. I couldn't find anywhere where he withdrew from the case as the defense attorney. I couldn't find a recusal that he had filed as the prosecutor until I did my very first show and blabbed all of it. And then he hurried up and filed a recusal with the Attorney General's office and then named his own replacement. No worry, don't you guys worry. Bill Sloan has already agreed to take it. Well, Bill Sloan is from Pike County. And a little birdie in the Pike County courthouse said that allegedly whenever Bill Sloan got this case, Patrick Little's case, he said it was so jacked up that he was scared to death to touch it. So he didn't. He just pushed it right on through just like it was. Because he knew, allegedly, if he opened it, if he pulled a string, if he did anything to it, the whole dang thing was going to fall apart. Now, how's something like that stand up in a court of law? How does something like that stand up in a court of law? How can Mr. Curtis represent Brian? You know, sometimes when you go to see, whenever you're trying to find an attorney, you know, and somebody says, well, I can't take it, but here I'm gonna give you the names of 3 lawyers. Well, one lawyer has a conflict that they all know about, so he can't take it. Second lawyer, it's about the same thing. For some reason, there's a conflict there. They can't take it neither. But the third one, honey, they're jumping in the car and they're willing to drive 2 hours down the road to come meet you and take that case immediately. Honey, if that happens, I hate to tell you, it sounds a little bit fishy. That sounds a little bit fishy. Why would someone disguise themselves as a defense attorney, come in and take a case? Do you think it would be easy for them to control, to help the other attorney control what happens in that case? What if you have two attorneys who are conspiring like that, who are working together on all their cases? It don't matter. You got a little town, you've only got maybe 3 or 4 attorneys in that town, but they're everyone on the take. What happens? What happens when all the defense attorneys, most of them anyway, most of the big ones, the judge, and heck, your law enforcement, man, I mean, I could just keep naming roles. It's so unbelievable. Like, where in the world could you even imagine that many people being that evil? But they help each other get elected. They help each other get elected. And they have each other's backs. And they all know how the criminal justice system works. Just because something's not fair, just because something's not right, just because there's a complaint, somebody's got a complaint, just because there ain't nothing gonna happen. Who's gonna do anything? What is there for them to do? There ain't nothing. Who you gonna tell? Who's the authority? All right. So Goldie's attorney, Mike Curtis, he fashioned a sentence that he believes to be fair and just to promote respect for the law and to deter. They're so full of BS. So we were satisfied with it. Goldie will be under supervision for 3 years upon his release. Curtis said he is unsure as to whether Goldie will file an appeal. Sounds to me like Curtis and Goldie were friends. That's what it sounds to me like. All right. So we're going to watch this hearing and let you guys see for yourself.
Right in your May 2nd, 2010 report.
I don't remember. I remember I met him at.
That you had.
All right. Hang on a second. Let me we want to go back to the first one.
Maybe see it.
Should have a copy.
All right.
Called 10 CR 70, Commonwealth versus Brian Gallagher here on the Daubert hearing, and also Miss Jones here on her case with counsel as well. So,
And Mr. Gallagher is present.
right?
Ms. Jones is present too, just for the record. I know Mr. Curtis filed this motion. We were purchasing it today. We obviously joined in that motion.
I figured you would. I think.
Not sure that-
I don't know, I think you should have filed a motion.
Now the old man, let me tell you who everybody is.
We're Daubert here, and
Okay. Now the guy that's sitting there in the brown on the left in the brown suit, that is Goldie. That is the guy that's in prison right now. That's the prosecutor who brought this case against Brian. And the little old man is Brian's attorney. Now, later on, that little old man becomes Goldie's attorney. That's who we just talked about. In Goldie's case, Brian's attorney, this little old man, became his attorney.
Mr. Goldie,
Yes, I know I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, but we would call Dr. John Koenig, right? Koenig. I knew I pronounced it wrong.
it's a good German name, so Dr. Kane, if you have come over this direction and get you sworn in.
Well, hey, boy, what the hell you are? Tell me after the fact. Koenig.
That's the German spelling of it. Swear for to tell the truth and nothing but the truth in this matter. See?
Morning, Doctor. If you could state your name and what you do, sir.
John Curtis Edward Koenig, Jr. I'm a physician.
Okay, and just before we get too in detail of why we're here today, if you could just go through your educational history for me.
I am Kentucky born and bred and went to school in Kentucky, to high school at Trinity High School, college at Bellarmine University, graduate school at the University of Louisville, where I received a master's in biology with an area of concentration of molecular biology. I then went to medical school at the University of Louisville. 73 to 77, I graduated from school in 77, started internship and residency at Norton Children's Hospital for 2 years, and then finished my residency and fellowship training in critical care medicine at Wayne State University, Children's Hospital of Detroit. I am board certified in pediatrics and pediatric critical care.
Okay. And Doctor, if you could tell me the places that you've worked and what you've done for them.
I originally started at the Children's Hospital Los Angeles, University of Southern California, where I was an assistant professor of critical care medicine and pediatrics. There until 87. While there, I was advanced in 1984 to associate professor of clinical pediatrics. I was the director of clinical care for the pediatric ICU there. I was the medical director of respiratory therapy, medical director of the transport program for the hospital. While there, I lectured extensively regionally, locally, nationally, internationally.
Okay, after there, where
After there, I was the medical director at Valley Presbyterian Hospital, medical director of pediatric critical care. And I was there until 93 when I became the medical director of the pediatric intensive care unit at St. Mary's Hospital in Evansville, Indiana. I was there until I took a disability retirement because of arthritis. Still involved, still maintain my license, my training. Today, I primarily have been involved with abuse cases in the state of Kentucky.
and before we go into what you've done here in Kentucky, have you ever been involved in any of the previous appointments that you had, or through your work as a doctor? You ever dealt with cases involving alleged child?
Yes. In the state of California, I probably testified in a couple hundred cases of child abuse. Testified in Kentucky and Indiana.
Now, mind you, this guy here is the one he's the daddy. Okay, this is the daddy, I'm pretty sure. All right, so remember that.
I was a consultant to the child abuse section of the police department in Los Angeles. I worked for the district attorney in Los Angeles. I was a medical director of the child abuse team in Rowan County. I was a consultant to the coroner in Indiana. I've lectured to the National Coroners Convention on child abuse.
With respect to what you've done here in Kentucky, you could go through that for me. With respect to
I have testified in Jefferson County, in Ashland, Kentucky, in Hart County, Kentucky, in child abuse cases.
any specialized training, any other training that you've done with respect to
Critical care has an extensive part of their training involved in child abuse, as we care for the most severely injured sexually abused children.
so you've done how many hours of training with respect to that? I know that's probably hard to approximately, give me an approximate number.
You know, I don't know that I can quantify that. Literally hundreds of hours.
A lot of that dealing with child abuse cases.
Yes. I'm talking about specifically related to child abuse.
Now, the case that we're here about today, if you could tell me, you wrote our office specifically, Mr. Johnson, a letter May the 2nd of 2010, discussing what you believe was the cause of this case. Do you have that letter with you, by any chance?
No,
I'll give you my fresh memory, because I know it's been a while. In that letter,
he would have to have been in a major motor vehicle
Sorry.
accident. But based on the history and the findings at autopsy.
Whenever I do it this way, if I mute my mic, it mutes this. And it doesn't do it that way if I pull it up on my thing. I'm sorry, y'all. I forgot.
History and the findings at autopsy and of the hospital that treated him for instance, clearly this is a case of abuse.
and if you could just tell us how exactly you came to that opinion. Was there certain things in your record, certain things about the report, things that allowed you to come to this conclusion?
The child was seen, I believe it was Friday evening at the University of Kentucky Medical Center, at which time no mention was made of any bruising on the child. And yet, trying to refresh my memory, I believe it was Monday morning when he was taken to the emergency room and pronounced dead. He had extensive bruising. He had 2 ruptures of his small intestines that led to peritonitis.
Now, I know that you've read Dr. Hunsaker's report, and Dr. Hunsaker stated the cause of death was bacterial septicemia, if I'm pronouncing that correct.
That's correct.
Okay, but he also goes on to say that was due to peritonitis with, well, let me just have you read it. You probably pronounce peritonitis. I went to law school, not medical school, so.
Peritonitis with pyoperitoneum, neural perforations of his jejunum, blunt force injury of the abdomen.
And could you explain what that means?
You have to take it in relation to the things that occurred, if you really want to understand this.
Now, are you paying attention? Okay, number one, this guy is not a medical examiner. Okay? He's not a medical examiner. Yeah, sound should be back up. Is it back up now? Should be back up. It should be okay. There's sound now. Jackie says there's sound. Okay. That's why. Because I muted mine. Normally it doesn't affect what we're watching. But because this is an audio file, and the way that I had to share it, it muted it, and I didn't realize it. I'm sorry. But I rewound it, so we've been able to catch it back up. Now, this guy, like I said, he is not a medical examiner. He was the daddy of a social worker who said, "Hey, Dad, will you look at this for me? I just want to have a second opinion. Will you look at this for me?" Now, let's go back and look. I think, well, actually, let's not do that because he still has a trial that is pending. But this case, and it's on this information, okay? So we're going to be able to watch all of these and see for ourselves how easy this case is going to fall apart. It's a case that's built on a house of cards, and this house of cards is going to come just crashing down as soon as something happens. I'll keep my mouth shut. As soon as somebody gets a hold of it, who knows what to do with it.
There was an injury to the child's abdomen. Blunt force means that a blow of some type was delivered to the abdomen that resulted in rupture of the small intestine.
The calf stepping on the baby's stomach caused this injury. Now, it's in the medical record somewhere. We've got a ton of records and all of this. You'll be able to see it. It says that there's like 2 pieces of hide were that's what it looked like. That 2 pieces of hide were taken off of that baby's intestine. Now, we had pictures. This is just the baby. But, you know, listen, here's what's so bad about this is this was a baby who had a whole life, you know, and he had a mommy and he had a daddy that loved him, and they were never able to grieve. Look at that baby. Look at that little baby. He was their family was never able to grieve the loss of this child. And what's even worse is that the hospital that they took this child to failed him. They failed him. And then to cover their own mistake, their own bad decision, wrong decision, whatever, it set up what I think it did was it made him septic. I'm no doctor or nothing, and I'm no lawyer, you guys, you know that. But from what we've learned, it looks like the injury, when it perforated his bowel and he didn't get treated for that, even though they took him to the hospital, it was the doctors that didn't find it. You can't then say this was child abuse. She took the baby to the hospital afterwards. She took him to the hospital before, for other stuff. It's not her fault that they missed it. And then a week later, he died from I guess, the sepsis from that infection of his bowel tearing. And it said that it looked like two little hoof prints on the place where it had been, where that injury was. They said it looked like two little hoof marks. And when they looked at that calf's foot, that was exactly what it looked like. It had, it's a hoof. It's got two little marks. I mean, this is people's lives. These are people's lives that they just destroy. For what? For what? Just because you were too arrogant to admit that you made a mistake? Or because you thought that you knew, even though you didn't know a damn thing?
In two areas. When the small intestine is ruptured, the material inside the intestine spills out into the cavity. Cavity is the general area where the intestines is located, where major organs are located. That material is full of bacteria. The bacteria then are released into an area where they're not normally found, which is usually a sterile area. They cause infection. The infection becomes systemic, meaning throughout his entire body. And it was that infection that led to this thing.
Going a little further into Dr. Hunsaker's report, he basically said
Look at him.
that's what the cause of death was, but he can't tell you anything other than that. Correct? He can't tell you whether it's abuse, whether it's alleged by the defendants that Nathaniel had been stepped on or kicked by a calf a couple weeks prior to that, or 10 days or something. He can't really tell us. Is that accurate in his report?
Yes.
Okay. So based on your letter, I believe you stated in your letter to our office that you felt like this happened most likely between 24 to 48 hours prior to the death.
Yes.
Okay. How can you differentiate the time when Dr. Hunsaker cannot? Some part of your training, some part of your expertise that you have that Dr. Hunsaker may not know, or explain to us how you came to that conclusion.
Sure. I've literally taken care of hundreds of children who've had severe blunt force injury to the abdomen. To rupture a child's abdomen takes a very strong force. It is frequently reported from blows to the abdomen, from a fist, or some long object. When you rupture the intestines, you don't go a week or 2 weeks before you become ill. That illness shows up within hours, literally, the injury to the perforation. And untreated, the infection is very rapid. Untreated will result in death in a short period of time.
So you're saying that you came up with the timeline of the 24 to 48 hours based on the hundreds of cases you've dealt with of children with sustained blunt force trauma to the abdomen and sepsis or whatever the medical term for that infection is.
Yes.
And do you know why Dr. Hunsaker couldn't come on that, or is it something beyond what he does, or?
I don't know what information he had at the time he did the autopsy, but it's clear from the medical records that, the bruising wasn't there. The child had no evidence of ruptured intestines when he was seen Friday night. So it had to happen after that investigation.
So your opinion is based on your evaluation of all the records that were available, correct?
Correct.
Including Dr. Hunsaker's report. Some of those records also included UK from the Friday to his death before.
Yes.
Basing that on the experience that you've dealt with hundreds of cases of alleged child abuse and alleged blunt force trauma. And that's how you,
And based on the medical literature.
and that's how you came to your opinion.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you also talk about, in your letter, dated May 2nd, some other things that indicated to you instances of abuse. Specifically, I think you talk about evidence of reports at 6 to 8 weeks prior to, and you also talk about some, I believe you talk about the hair loss.
Yes.
And if you could explain your opinions on that and how you came to those.
There was reports of loss of hair on the scalp. The loss of hair can occur from some infections, but in this particular case, it appears that it was due to the hair being pulled out. And that's a common occurrence in abuse. But based on the findings, the exams of his scalp, it all suggests that this hair was not from some infection, natural cause. There was some bruising that was indicated in a previous exam. There's bruising that's consistent of a child of this.
Dealing with child abuse cases and training and abuse, and work that you did in LA and Indiana, your training that you had here.
Yes. Request to do an opinion different than Hunsaker's. It was a request to review the case.
A request to review the case. And were you paid by the cabinet to review the case?
No,
And you were doing this
No money?
PREA, correct?
I believe the term you use in legal terms is pro bono. Yes.
No
Pro bono.
money?
And when you were asked to review the case through your daughter, through the social worker, did they provide you with the Cabinet for Family Resources records?
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Did they provide you with records?
With medical records, yes.
Did they provide you with records from the cabinet?
I don't remember any records from the cabinet. No.
Did you review any records from the cabinet as to their that for?
Is it, well, I don't have it muted, but we'll stop sharing it and we'll reshare it. Sometimes it just does bad.
Did you notice any blood studies indicating a more than higher level blood level that would indicate infection?
Prior to his death, no.
You didn't? Now, these blood level standards that you rely on, these are standards that are based on adults and not infants. Is that correct?
No,
Not correct?
no,
Why isn't that correct?
because there are standards for children, and when I look at records, I reference them to children.
And what
The blood tests themselves give you specific results. And I look at the results, not at what the lab list as their numbers.
now, they have a high and low standard for adults, correct?
Yes,
What is the normal high and low standard for someone who has, according to Dr. Hunsaker, bacterial septicemia?
Normal levels when?
When the bacteria first gets in.
When somebody is septic?
Yeah.
What would be a normal level for what blood test?
You name the blood test. I'm not the doctor. What blood test would we be looking at?
There could be a lot of blood tests one would look at.
Let's go
One
through.
might look at white blood cell counts.
Right,
One might look at hemoglobin hematocrit.
right.
One might look at clotting stuff.
Okay, let me stop you right there because I have to make a point here. We're going to see in the records when they took this little boy to the doctor, he had those tubes in his ears and he had a little bit of blood in his ears, and the only thing that they did was they did an ear swab. They took a swab of whatever it was in his ear, and they call it a stain, an ear stain or whatever, and then they looked at it underneath a microscope to look for the white blood cells. In the paperwork, we have the records where it came back. That little ear stain that they did came back and said that he had 0 white blood cells. Well, if it came back and showed that the baby didn't have any white blood cells, you would think that they would immediately order a blood test. They did no blood test on this baby at all. None. The only thing they did was his ear swab that came back and said he had no white blood cells. We've got the paperwork where it came back, where it shows the results. It says 0 white blood cells or no white blood cells. Well, where's the blood test order then? Why didn't somebody order a blood test on this child after it had been stepped on by that calf? Not one blood test was ordered. Not one. The baby died without one blood test being ordered on this child. And as soon as the mommy said she was going to sue the hospital, her and Brian both were charged with red rum of this child and child abuse. They have been fighting. Brian's family has been fighting to prove his innocence. He will not take a plea. He did not hurt this child. Him nor his mommy did.
Please. Electrolytes.
Now, in regard to white blood counts, they're low for adults, correct?
Yes.
What is the high and low for adults?
It'll vary depending on the lab, generally in a range of 5,000 to 10,000.
And what is the high and low level for a child such as Nathaniel Jones's age at the time of his death?
Normal levels?
Right.
Will be in the same range.
Be in the same range.
Mhm.
What about the hemoglobin count?
Hemoglobin counts will be normal for children, anywhere from 10 to 12, typically at this age.
What about adults?
Adults differs for males and females. Males will be in a range of 14 to 16. Females will be in a range of 12 to 15.
What about the hematocrit? There's a hematocrit.
Hematocrit and hemoglobin are related. Hematocrit is just a different way of measuring hemoglobin.
Okay. Would that standard be the same hemoglobin as far as the norms?
In reference to hemoglobin, yes, but not the same numbers.
They're not the same.
Hematocrit is a different number than hemoglobin.
What would be the numbers for hematocrit?
Or who?
For Nathan.
For a child this age?
Right.
typically 28 to 35.
What about for an adult?
30, again, varies from males to females, in a range of 30 to 45.
Now, when you reviewed these blood studies, did you know, you said the blood studies differ from hospital to hospital as far as the range of level, correct?
From lab to lab, yes.
Now, do you know what rate of difference there was, say, from the blood studies that was done at St. Clair as compared to UK or to Fleming County Hospital?
Offhand, no.
Would that in any way affect your opinion here today?
No.
Now,
When I review records again, I review them in reference to what's going on in the patient.
this child was taken to the hospital at least 48 hours before he died. Is that correct?
I believe it was Friday evening.
Friday evening? On Friday evening, you would have expected this bacterial septicemia to have shown up, would you not?
If it was present, yes.
How long does it take bacterial septicemia to show up in a child?
A relatively short period of time,
A short period of time could be anything.
a few hours.
Few hours?
Yes, sir.
In other words, with that, your testimony is that at the time of the perforation of the intestines, bacterial septicemia should have appeared immediately within a few hours.
Correct.
Now, when you're talking about the perforation,
Point of clarification, one doesn't base one's diagnosis on a single test.
I understand.
It
What other
also involves the examination of the patient's vital signs.
And then the examination of the patient, you would expect to see a distended stomach, wouldn't you? Abdomen?
Yes,
Did not, when was the first time you noticed a distended abdomen?
at the autopsy, at the presentation at the hospital.
Was there any indication of a distended abdomen at St. Clair's Hospital when the child was taken?
Not that I'm aware, remember.
So there wasn't any distended abdomen at St. Clair's Hospital, correct?
You're asking me to remember something in records I haven't reviewed in the last couple of months, but I don't remember anything abnormal in the child's physical exam prior to him arriving at the emergency
But
room.
that's an extremely important fact, isn't it?
Yes, well, not just distension, it's the exam of the abdomen.
Right.
And I just want to say, how many times do we hear people say on the stand, they'll come to court and they're like, oh, well, you're asking me to talk about something that I've not reviewed the records for in 10 years, or I've not reviewed the records. You knew you were coming to court today. You knew we had court today. You knew we were looking at this case. You knew that you were going to be called as a witness. Well, isn't that their job to be prepared? Be prepared to testify? Maybe you should review your notes. Maybe you should review the case before you come to court. But how many times do we see witnesses come to court and say, oh, well, I've not looked at this in 10 years. I can't tell you what I saw and what I didn't see. I can't tell you why I arrested the guy. I can't tell you. I don't know.
Whether the abdomen is tender
And there wasn't any indication that the abdomen was tender, was there?
no.
In fact, was there any medical records that would indicate to you that the abdomen was tendered within 48 hours, 72 hours, within a week?
From, again, medical records are available Friday evening and again from the hospital. And there was nothing in the child's exam Friday evening or before that suggests that there was anything abnormal.
Now, doctors trained to recognize tenderness, correct?
Yes,
And whether or not you're a trained pediatrician such as you, or general practitioner, or emergency room doctor, you're trained to recognize tenderness. Is that correct?
yes,
And if there is tenderness, you should note it on the chart. Is that correct?
yes,
And if it's not noted on the chart, it would be an error or an omission on the part of the doctor. Is that correct?
not necessarily. There are things you will observe in a patient that are normal, but you won't necessarily report.
Now, you mentioned physical exam. Besides the abdomen, what else do you look for?
General, the first thing a pediatrician looks at when he walks in a room is the child. The first thing that happens in your mind is you decide whether the child is sick or not sick. That's a gestalt you learn from years of observation of people. There will be color, there will be activity, there will be behavior of the child, the activity of the child.
Even the pupils too, don't you? The eyes.
Yes,
And, the color of the child, correct?
yes,
Because when a child becomes septicemia, the color changes on the child. Is that correct?
yes.
In other words, the child becomes sort of ashen. Is that correct?
That is, at different stages, they'll appear differently. They might appear bright red at some stages.
Okay. Now, what would be the coloration of the child when the septicemia first rears its head? Would it be a red, maybe a yellow color? Or...
Again, it depends on the stage that they're in when you see them.
Now, the stage that they're in, you're saying an acute stage, is that correct? Within 24 to 48 hours.
Yes,
You're not saying chronic, which should be something longer than 48 hours, correct?
septicemia is not a chronic illness, it's an acute illness.
Now, a tear of the intestines, when you're talking about a tear, are you talking about a complete tear of the intestines?
There was a hole, two holes in the intestines.
There was
in the
a hole.
autopsy report. Yes,
Was there one or two holes in the intestines?
two, I believe.
And can those holes take time to develop?
Yes,
And can they take up to a week or two to develop?
I'm not aware of that ever occurring in that period of time.
Can they take up to a week?
No,
Can they take up to 5 days?
no,
Can they take up to 4 days?
no.
And what literature do you rely on to state that?
Trauma literature.
Specifically, what literature?
There's a whole area of medicine that's trauma.
I know, but you mentioned you relied on medical literature, your opinions, and I want to know what medical literature you arrived at, that you read in arriving at your opinion.
Okay. Textbooks of pathology. What? Multiple authors.
Okay, textbook.
You're asking about my whole medical training. To ask me at this point to give you every book, every reference, every author, every journal that I've read.
Well, you volunteered to Mr. Goldie's questions, and I wrote it down,
Right.
that in arriving at these opinions, that you based your opinions on medical literature that you've read.
Yes, sir.
Now, I'm entitled to know exactly what medical literature it is that you've read in arriving at these opinions.
You have 2 weeks.
Well, I have as long as it takes.
I have read many books on pathology. the journals of critical care medicine, the journals of trauma, the journals of general pediatrics, and the American Academy of Pediatric Journals. Um,
What about abdominal injuries?
They would be in the journals I've just discussed and the textbooks I've discussed.
And can you specifically give us an example in a textbook whereby a child of this age had died with the same complications that this child died, according to your opinion?
Can I give you a specific?
Right.
I can tell you they're in the journals that I've discussed, yes.
Okay. They can go all the way back to 1940, couldn't it?
Yes, it could.
And then go all the way up to this year, correct?
I probably haven't read many journals from 1940. I didn't receive my medical degree until the 70s. And most of the literature we read is current, so it would have been in the 60s, 70s on.
When you submitted this letter on May 2nd, 2010, you can't specifically tell us which journals you read, the dates, and who the author of the publication was, right?
I didn't read any specific journals in review of this article. I can tell you that this is based on a lifetime of medical training and reading. I have typically had over 100 hours of continuing medical education when I was practicing. I continue to keep my medical literature up to date as required by Kentucky licensure.
Let me ask you this. Have you heard of a delayed rupture
Delayed rupture of what?
of the intestines?
What are you calling delayed?
Well, it's medically recognized. Delayed rupture?
It is. What are you calling a delayed rupture?
No.
He asked him, have you ever heard of a delayed rupture? And the guy just like, well, what are you calling one? He immediately gets offended. Like, are you accusing me of not thinking of that? Don't you love how entitled and egotistical these know-it-alls are?
Words, a blunt trauma can actually perforate the small intestines immediately, but over a period of time.
Most of them probably occur over a period of time. Some occur immediately.
So, okay,
But you take that in context.
All right. Steelman, this doctor is being paid for all expenses and a fee for showing up to court is part of his job. No, he was not. He did it pro bono because his daughter said, hey, Daddy, will you look at this case for me? This doctor over here says this is not child abuse, but I want to get a second opinion, Daddy. What do you think about this case, Daddy? So Daddy is the one who did this. Daddy's the one who got all this started in the child abuse category and the red rum. And he didn't get paid a dime. He didn't make nothing. Because it's not legit. It's not a legitimate investigation. It's not a legitimate ask. It's not a legitimate find. You know what I'm saying? None of it was. But then they all had to cover their own hind ends. They started out trying to cover for each other, trying to cover somebody else's hind end. But it just kept getting on. And whenever you try and cover for somebody else, then you have to cover for yourself. And before you know it, there's 10 people that have to now cover their hiney so they don't go to jail or get sued.
Of the entire medical history. A patient who has a significant enough abdominal trauma to cause a rupture will have evidence of that before the intestines rupture.
This case, 15 years later, still waiting to go to trial. It has been set for trial 50 times. And it keeps getting put off because they can't take this case to trial because it's going to fall apart. There's nothing there. There's absolutely nothing to this case. But they tried to railroad and railroad and railroad and bully and intimidate and retaliate into plea deals, into getting guilty pleas, and sending these two people to prison for the rest of their lives, even though they were innocent. It was an accident. That's it. Period. It was an accident. They took the child to the doctor. It's not their fault that the hospital, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, there were 3 different hospitals that missed it. They took this baby to the hospital to get treated, and the hospital missed it every single time. And because they were getting ready to face a big lawsuit for a dead baby that was completely preventable, they're going to throw these 2 in prison. How often does this happen? This should outrage everybody, because this could happen to every single one of us. Every single one of us. It's terrifying.
And what would be the evidence that would appear to give a trained physician what to look for?
There would be tenderness, there would be potentially distension, there would be changes in the white count, maybe changes in other chemistries in the body.
And he's not in jail, Marnie. Brian is at home with his parents. He lives with his mom and dad. And he's not in jail, but this is still hanging over his head. 15 years later, he's still out on bond. He's traumatized beyond, imagination. He can't leave his house. He's scared to death if he leaves his house, something will happen and he'll go back to prison or he'll go to jail. They've lost everything. Their family has lost everything that they've had. This has devastated their families, not just his. I'm sure it's devastated the mommy's family. They had not been together but about 3 months when this happened. So, of course, they did not stay together. As soon as the cops started questioning them, you know how that went. They separated them immediately. And they probably never did speak again. It's just the way that goes. And they probably, accused Brian to her and then accused her to Brian. You know how that goes. And it's just a nightmare. This family has lived a nightmare for the last 15 years, ever since this happened. And I mean, how do you deal with something like this? How do you emotionally deal with being called a baby killer for years and years and years? You probably can't get a job. Who's going to hire you? It's absolutely devastating. what they've done to them. And there's nothing that can fix it. You know, even if they were to dismiss the case or if he was found not guilty, that still does not give him his life back. What's justice in this case?
You didn't see any of that, did you?
No.
In other words, that rupture could have occurred on the date that he died from a delayed trauma.
Ask your question again, please.
I said, in other words, the rupture could have occurred on the day of his death due to trauma that occurred several days before.
Could the rupture have occurred a couple of days before his death? Yes. A week? No.
Not a week? Is there any studies that indicate that that it's impossible to occur within a week?
I'm not aware of any specific studies. No.
You're not aware of any, correct?
Yes.
Are you aware of any that says that it couldn't occur within 10 days?
The rupture being present for 10 days?
Right.
Doesn't happen. No.
And what literature do you rely on stating that does not occur?
All the trauma journals, all the critical care journals, all the pediatric journals, in my experience in treating hundreds of these cases.
Now, when you reviewed the records from Dr. Burrows, did you notice any tenderness over the abdomen?
Not that I remember.
Did you notice any discoloration?
Dr. Burrows, I believe, was examining the child for bruises. I don't remember specifically what he listed.
What about from Fleming County Hospital?
Again, I reviewed these records in the early part of this year. It's my understanding that today we were discussing my qualifications and not review the records. I would want to go back and refresh my memory by looking at the records.
In other words, your report of May 2nd, 2010 is really not complete. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct.
But
What do you mean by complete?
in other words, you would like to be able to expand on what's contained in your May 2nd, 2010 report. Is that correct?
When I wrote this letter, the review of the records were fresh in my mind. I have not looked at them since then.
So you can specifically point to a record that would state that child's injuries obviously occurred after his visit to UK Medical Center emergency room 3 days prior to his death. Is that correct?
What I can tell you at this time is that in my review of the records, there was nothing to indicate this injury occurred prior to the exam at UK.
Now, when you were doing that, were you looking for evidence of tenderness along the abdomen?
Yes, sir. I was
Looking at the eyes, looking at the collar, looking at the blood levels?
I looked at all the evidence that was in the medical records. I reviewed every page of the medical records, everything written in the medical records.
Now, did you look at the autopsy report more specifically on page 6? It relates to the trunk.
I read the entire autopsy report.
Did you observe any faint red, oblique, inferior right, superficial loss to the epidermis?
You're asking for specifics, but I cannot give you today.
You may.
I'm going to ask you to review what Dr. Page 6 and 7.
Yes, sir.
Notice that there's, these are observations made by him at the autopsy, is that correct?
Yes.
And these are what we call gross observations, is that correct?
Your questions would probably more better be directed to Dr. Hunsaker, but yes, that's what I'm,
Those are made by him.
yes.
And he noticed superficial loss of the epidermis linearly configured and measured slightly more than a quarter of an inch long without hyperemia, correct?
That's what the report says.
What does that mean?
It means there was no redness. There was an area of skin missing without redness.
And what would that indicate to you as a trained pediatrician?
That single lesion by itself just says that there's some skin missing, abrasion. or
How does
something.
that skin? What caused that skin to be missing?
I can't give you an answer to that.
Be caused by an animal?
Could it have been? Yes.
Yeah. Could have been, right?
Yes.
Could have been by a cat, right?
By a what?
Cat?
Calf? I suppose any animal could have done it, yes.
In the left upper,
The indications from the autopsy and from the pictures is that it was an acute injury. The fact that it wasn't red also suggested it was an acute injury.
in the left upper abdominal quadrant are patchy areas of cutaneous discoloration, terribly brown and violet in the subcostal region. Correct?
That's what the report says.
Where would that be in the abdomen?
Read it again.
It says in the left upper abdominal quadrant are patchy areas of cutaneous discoloration, variable light brown and violet in the subcostal region, extending to the left anterior axillary line.
That would be over the stomach.
Over the stomach.
Mhm.
And it indicates it's light brown. What does that mean?
I believe he's referring to a bruise.
A bruise?
Which would, yes.
Light brown? And a bruise has been more than 48 hours old, correct?
Can't say that.
Can't say that?
No. There was a time when it was thought that bruising could be the length of time the bruise has been there could be determined. Current medical literature has shown that that is not so true. That there's not good aging stages for bruises.
So in other words, this could be a week old or or a day old, correct?
A week old, yeah, it does. It's just not, there is not good evidence for, like I said, for dating bruises.
And it says such defects range in size from 3/8 up to a 1/2 inch in diameter and cover an area measuring 3.5 inches transversely by 2 inches longitudinally, correct?
That's what it says.
And how long had that been there?
Again, it's a bruise. I can't tell you the age of a bruise.
How long had the faint red oblique superficial loss of epidermis in the right xiphoid area been there?
I can't tell you that, except the fact that it does not have any discoloration suggests that it's fresh.
Okay.
This guy asks a bunch of good questions.
Let's go to the head and neck. On the upper left lateral forehead of the anterior headline is a 1/2 inch in diameter, light violet, circular, cutaneous.
Can I take a second? I need a glass of water. My allergies are kicking up.
You need to take a little bit?
That might be one.
Okay. I mean, I don't, they're out. I don't go with.
There's a little bit there. Maybe.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, he indicated like to have just a little break.
Okay. Take just a 10-minute break then. So.
Thank you.
Okay. She's over there snoring down, y'all. I know you can hear her.
Got you hydrated there.
Yes.
Thank you.
No.
Mr. Curtis, are we
Hey,
ready to go again?
Doctor, in the truth, there wasn't any blood work done to this child at UK.
Again, I don't have recollection of the specifics of the medical records at this time. I was told that we were coming to discuss my qualifications, not specifically the case.
Now, if there wasn't any blood work done at UK, would that in any way have any bearing on your opinions as set forth in your May 2nd letter?
No.
Now, Doctor, all these injuries to the child's head, neck, eyes, that you indicate in the second paragraph, none of these contributed or were related to the cause of the death. Is that correct?
I don't know that I can say that. Injuries are typically cumulative and additive.
Now, Doctor, if the injuries were extensive to the head, then there would have been some subdural hematoma, correct?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
No.
There would have been some type of hemorrhage to the head, correct?
Not necessarily.
Be swelling to the brain, wouldn't there?
Could be.
And there wasn't any swelling to the brain based on the autopsy report, is that correct?
I don't remember that.
Doctor, are you going to testify within a reasonable degree of medical probability that the injuries to the head, to the neck, and set forth in your second paragraph caused this child's death, yes or no?
Let me reread that second paragraph.
Let me reread this. I'm getting ready to tell y'all another piece of the puzzle that's just going to blow your mind. Let's wait till he gets done.
am not seeing anything in my report that suggests anything about head and neck injuries on an acute basis. What I discussed was prior injuries.
Well, that's a way of evading my question.
No, sir, I'm not evading your question. I'm referring to what's written in this document.
So to be correct to say, your testimony is going to be that the injuries that you note in the second paragraph of your May 2nd, 2010 report did not contribute or cause this young child's death. Is that correct?
What I say in the second paragraph is that there's evidence of previous abuse that was not related to his death.
That was not related to his death. Thank you. Now, doctor, the child had an ear infection. Is that correct?
I do remember seeing that, yes.
Now, with bacterial septicemia, could that have been when the bacterial septicemia first reared its ugly head, so to speak?
Can an ear infection result in bacterial septicemia? Yes.
Okay, now one thing I want to say is this guy is saying, oh, it's child abuse. It's child abuse. But there was no other doctors, none of them, saying child abuse. There was nobody else saying this was child abuse except for this doctor. He's not an expert. I mean, he's not a pathologist. He's not a medical examiner. He's not anything. He was just a social worker's daddy who happened to be a doctor. And she got her daddy to give the answer she wanted him to give. Whether they had the evidence for it or not, they were looking at faulty hospital records, you know, like they did not order the proper tests that would have found what happened to the baby. It's a cover up. It's every bit a cover up, and they all know what they're doing. They all know what the role is.
Now, the peritonitis with the pyopetroneum, exactly what is that? That's an inflammation, correct?
Yes.
An inflammation of the perineum?
Well, it says there's inflammation, and it says there is pus in the abdomen.
Pus in the abdomen. And the pus is when, unfortunately, we're talking about the bowels, correct?
Intestines, yes.
And once the hole developed, then that pus came about as a result of the feces, the fecal matter, and stuff like that, correct?
Yes.
That poor baby.
Now, the mural, mural perforation, exactly what is that?
Perforation of the bowel.
Yeah, but mural, mural. What medical
The wall of the bowel.
Please.
The wall of the bowel.
Wall. Now, you had the birth record,
I believe I did, yes.
and the thing in the birth records of the child gave you cause for concern.
Not that I recollect.
He also had
That's right, Miss Garland.
pharmacy of action drugs, correct?
I may have.
And you know what medication the child was on at least a week before his death?
Not offhand, no.
Was he on any kind of antibiotics?
I remember they were treating him for an ear infection. Yes. What specific drugs he was on, I don't remember.
The type of drugs that the child can mask certain symptoms, is that correct?
Yes,
And, the septicemia, correct?
no,
Can't,
no,
not at all.
no,
Mask an infection, correct?
no,
It can't.
no.
The child have
Not,
any
not an infection that's body-wide.
body. And the infection, as I understand it, the asthma, correct?
No,
It wasn't?
no. Septicemia is a body-wide infection.
Now, did the child have any fever?
When?
You reviewed.
I don't remember offhand.
Now, you would expect that the child had an infection, there would be a fever, would you? Slight elevation,
Depends on what infection you're talking about.
septicemia,
It may be a subnormal temperature.
please,
The temperature may be subnormal.
subnormal or above
When?
the septicemia?
His septicemia was not seen until he was dead.
Now, the post, it takes time for post to form, doesn't it?
Yes.
Takes 3 or 4 days for it to form.
No. Couple of hours.
Even longer, man.
If you had it and an abnormal immune system, it might. Your body has white blood cells in the bloodstream at all times. Their purpose is to respond immediately to infection.
And we don't know how his white blood cell tree was acting before he died or even on the day he died.
Again, I would have to go back and review the records again to give you specifics. You're asking for specifics that I'm too far away from our review of the records to tell you.
This is a Daubert hearing for expert witness.
Here the case, this child was abused at least 6 to 8 weeks prior to his death. Is that correct?
There is evidence of abuse prior to the injury that caused his death, yes.
And all the medical reports that you reviewed, there's no notation of any abuse. Is that correct?
No, it's not correct.
That's not correct?
No.
What medical reports did you view that sustained the abuse?
Again, you're asking for specifics and without a recent review of the records, which I will do prior to trial. And I will bring any and all records I have to trial. But you're asking for a general recollection from some months ago. And yes, I do remember evidence of abuse prior to the terminating event.
He said he will review his records before trial. This was in October of 2010. It looks like this baby died in 2009. That's how long ago this hearing was. They still have not had the boy's trial. They've still not had his trial. They've just been calling him a baby killer for the last 15 years. With no evidence. They have nothing. This case is going to fall apart like a house of cards. You watch and
The
see.
doctors reported it, didn't
Reported it to who?
they? To the authorities.
Not that I'm aware of.
And there's a specific statute that says, even a doctor, if you have suspicion to believe that a child has been abused, you are to report. Is that correct?
Yes.
Mandated.
And was that statute complied with in this case?
Not that I know
and if there's been extensive abuse in the medical profession, you hang their heads low. Is that correct? Failure to respond or report?
If someone suspects abuse and doesn't report it, yes.
And have you talked to any of these doctors and asked why they didn't report it?
No.
Do you think that would be something that you would want to know based on your own visual and gross observation of the child at that time?
No.
It's not. Children heal differently, don't they?
Differently than what?
I mean, no two humans are alike, correct?
As far as I know, they're not.
No two children are alike, correct?
Yes.
It may take my body less time to heal than yours, correct?
Yes.
And it may take a child's body less time to heal than another child.
Yes.
You say 6 to 8 weeks. How did you arrive at that 6 to 8 week opinion?
Based on the records I reviewed. Again, you're asking for specifics that I can't give you at this moment. If I give you an answer, I want to be as accurate as I can be, and I cannot do that.
The opinion that you're expecting to do here today.
As I understood it, what I was expected to testify today was to my qualifications.
Right. And as to whether or not these theories or opinions have been tested. Now, the opinion that that child was killed within most likely 24 to 48 hours, these are opinions that you're going to testify to, correct?
Yes.
And the theory that you rely on is what?
Theory?
Yeah.
I'm not relying on theory. I'm relying on what I know of the medical literature, my experience. I've treated some 18,000 children.
And your opinion's been subjected to peer review?
Yes.
What peer review has tested these opinions?
As I mentioned, I have been invited to lecture to multiple groups throughout the country, including the coroners, national convention.
Peer review committee has tested your
Peer review committee. I'm not sure what you're asking. Did a group of doctors look at my opinions and say they were right or wrong?
Yeah.
That's not a common occurrence in medicine,
Now,
except in malpractice.
you belong to the American Board of Chiefs, your board certified.
Yes, I'm a fellow of the American Academy of Pediatrics.
And they have certain standards, correct?
Yes.
They have certain groups that test opinions to see if they meet certain scientific or medical standards. Is that correct?
The American Academy of Pediatrics qualifies people based on examination. Do they go around and look at medical evidence and determine if it's right or wrong? Not directly, no.
Other people situated in your position who may agree or disagree with your opinions. Is that correct?
I don't know, you'd have to ask them.
Now, have you ever written any publications?
Yes,
And
yes.
the American Journal of Pediatrics?
I don't know where they're published. I'm not sure where my publications are. I'd have to go back and look at
You've
specific.
already set the list of all your publications.
I have trouble doing that right now. My information's on a floppy disk. Computers don't handle floppy disks today.
It seems to me you had a CV at one time.
Yes, sir. It was about 20 pages.
And do you still have that CV?
No,
You can't remember your publications?
not offhand, no.
And you can't remember exactly what the titles of those publications were?
Offhand, no.
You know what not they were published in the Lancet, the American Journal of Pediatrics?
I don't remember.
And Doctor, you have ability to get a copy of your CV still.
Actually, I don't. Not unless you have a computer that runs floppy disks.
Okay. So there's probably somebody around.
Floppy disks.
There are probably some in existence, some, yes.
I've looked on lately, but
Those applications you wrote, did you receive any criticism from any members of the pediatric field?
No.
You didn't? They all joined in it, or they just ignored it?
I don't know, you'd have to ask them.
Surely you can remember the last publication you published.
No,
How long ago was it? 1980?
probably in the 90s.
Early 90s?
In the 90s.
Could be mid, early, mid, or late?
I don't remember.
Publications you have published concerning child abuse.
I don't believe any.
The publications had two causes of death related to child abuse.
Not that I remember.
You ever had any publications that's related to child abuse? At least 6 to 8 weeks prior to the death of the child.
I don't remember any.
You ever had any publications on cause of the child saying due to preparation of the intestines caused by blood in injury within 24 to 48 hours?
No,
Are there any publications that deal with blunt injury of a child that causes death within 24 to 48 hours?
are there any publications? Yes,
What are the names of those publications?
I couldn't tell you offhand.
You saw one.
Probably in the past year.
And do you remember where you saw it?
No,
Other than that, have you ever seen any other publications related to that same issue?
relating, can you state your issue again?
The issue is cause of death due to blunt injury to the abdomen within 24 to 48 hours.
Yes,
So you've seen several, correct?
many.
Did you rely on those publications in arriving at your opinions here today?
I did not go back and review them specifically for that.
You did not use those publications to form your opinion at all, is that correct?
Other than to increase my general knowledge of the field.
Have those publications.
I would suggest you go to a medical library and get the publications I've talked
I'm
about.
not one that read the doctor.
And I don't keep them.
I read how it does, so I'm gonna ask you very soon to do that.
Again, I do not have them. We're talking about 30 years of the Journal of Trauma, 30 years of the American Academy of Pediatrics, 30 years of critical care journals, textbooks.
Any journals he's relied on, getting, informing these opinions here today. And if he doesn't want to furnish them, then I'll leave.
I think he's indicated he doesn't have them at this point. I mean,
Well,
they're available in the public realm.
yeah, but what? I don't know what to look for. He's the one that's, he says, he's the one that his opinion's based on.
I don't think he's referring to any specific of those publications. It's kind of like a shot in the dark.
As part of his general medical training, he can rely on his experience and his dealing with children. 18,000 some odd cases, children made that not a specific article or specific journal. He's not required to turn over every book he's ever read as part of his training.
Kind of getting beyond the realm to disclose everything anyone's ever read in whole general subject matter. I want to ask that of our fellow bar members. I think they've all read over time either, but
I've read something, I'll turn it over. Now, did you ever?
Do you have all the books from your childhood?
No, none.
Why was that?
Not bad.
we will agree on that.
That's one thing we will. Doctor, did you talk to Detective Gardner right at your May 2nd, 2010 report?
I don't remember. I remember I met him at a,
Did he just make like a dirty joke there? Was he referring to something that was like inappropriate? Or, I mean, I know it was a joke and he was saying I was a bad boy or dirty boy. What was it he said? Did you all catch that? I don't want to rewind it. I want to get through this, but did you all catch that? What did he say?
at a conference. I believe it was after the letter, but I'm not sure.
And,
I think after I read my report, they asked to meet with me and go over it.
most sure it's still a good question.
I'm not a lawyer. I just play one on TV. I just play one on TV. I want to play one on TV. I'd love that. That'd be fun. Be the time of my life. I wouldn't have to go to law school. I can just play a part. Be a lawyer on TV.
The Shields.
Learn.
T is lawyer. The mommy's lawyer.
Physical, psychological, or emotional disease that prevents you from remembering.
No.
When was the last time you practiced?
Probably 2 years ago in Kentucky. It was involved with legal cases.
When were you,
Where?
last time you acted as a physician?
1996.
Where was that?
Evansville, Indiana, St. Mary's Hospital.
How long did you work there?
3 years.
So he hadn't practiced in 15 years?
In an individual capacity currently, if you have a business entity established?
Individual.
How many cases have you, how many cases have you been a witness?
In the last few years, 3 or 4, going back to the 70s. 4 or 5.
He said going back to the 70s, 4 or 5. In the last 2 or 3 years, or in the last few years, 2 or 3. Did you all catch that? He had not practiced medicine since 96. Ain't that what he said? The baby died in 2009. So that means he had not practiced medicine in like almost 15 years. Ain't that what that means? That's what I think that means. And they relied on his testimony or his decision or his opinion for his daughter that was given freely. No money. He didn't charge no money. It was not his job. He did it as a favor to his daughter after a practicing doctor who was presently practicing medicine had already said, no, this is not child abuse. How you like that? How do you like that? And they built a murder case on 2 innocent people. Every single one of those people that brought these charges, I think, should be brought up on charges themselves. I don't see how. That is like they are trying to commit a fraud upon the court by setting up 2 innocent people and accusing them of committing a crime that they know they did not commit. Like, that's a whole nother level of evil than somebody who, thinks that somebody really did do something. When somebody knows they're innocent, but yet they continue to pursue a murder charge and a conviction, that's a whole new level of evil.
How many of those cases have, how many in California?
Over 100.
They all involve children?
Yes.
Testified in that many cases, you know what?
Daubert hearings typically are for scientific evidence, admissibility.
Testified in doctors.
Not that I'm aware of.
Nobody's ever challenged methods of practice.
That's usually asked at trial.
Were you told that today was a Daubert here?
Yes.
The letter of May 2nd, 2010, that you wrote to Mr. Johnson. You have that in front of you, is that correct?
I did.
It triggered an indictment. Did you know that?
I understand that, yes.
Okay. Pretty serious charge, murder.
Yes, it is.
Right. Today, you're scheduled for a doctor. You're aware of that.
Yes, sir.
You didn't even review your records prior to
No, sir, not for today.
Think that would have been important to the people conducting this Daubert hearing?
Not as I understood the Daubert hearing, no.
I know what a Daubert hearing is. You just told me it's about the scientific evidence involved, correct?
It's about, as I was told, it's about my qualifications, my education and experience.
But you know what a Daubert hearing is. You've testified in over 300 cases. You know what a Daubert hearing is.
This is the first Daubert hearing I've ever been to. No, I think that's wrong. I think I've been to one other one.
Where was that?
That was related to the use of infrared light to detect bruises that weren't obvious. And that was within the last few years. And I'm not sure that was a Daubert hearing if that wasn't done in trial.
Did you suspect today that your qualifications were going to be challenged?
Yes,
So it's pretty convenient to be here today and be able to say, I don't remember that. Don't you think?
No.
You don't think it is? What is it?
well, I was asked to testify about my qualifications, my education, my training, my experience, not about the case.
You had no
I
idea.
understood the case was to be tried at trial.
You had no idea we'd be asking you about your letter of March 2nd, I'm sorry, May 2nd, 2010?
No,
What is a forensic pediatrician?
sure there is such a thing,
There's no subspecialty of forensic pediatrics?
not that I'm aware of.
You're not a forensic pediatrician, can we assume that?
Yes,
There was an autopsy conducted in this case, right?
what was qualifications?
Did you read the autopsy?
I did. He is or isn't. Or what his training was.
Isn't it typically the case that forensics pathologists do medical examinations pursuant to an autopsy?
Yes,
Is it true that pathology is the study and diagnosis of disease?
of disease, yes.
Is it true that forensic pathology is concerned with determining the cause of death?
Part of the job, yes.
Dr. Hunsaker, the pathologist, examined Kyle's body. Is that correct?
But I understand,
You're not a pathologist, right?
correct,
You didn't examine Nathan's body at all in this case, right?
I did not.
You didn't review any of the microscopic tissue slides of this matter.
That's correct.
Do you have any specific training to determine the cause of death in children?
No. Other than a general pediatrics and critical care training, which deals with diseases that lead to death frequently, unfortunately.
How many death certificates have you signed for anything other than natural disease or natural causes of death?
I don't know a lot of them.
You've signed death certificates for
Okay.
anything other than natural causes.
Yes,
In what state?
California, Kentucky, Indiana,
And explain a situation.
maybe
like,
Michigan.
excuse me. Explain a situation like that for me, if you could. What type of situation is? What type of death might you sign off on a death certificate to that wasn't for natural cause?
Traumatic deaths, abuse cases.
Isn't that typically the field of the medical examiner to sign off on those kinds of cases?
No. Not when there's a treating physician who takes care of the patient for a period of time before the death.
Huh?
Those cases are frequently reviewed afterwards by the medical examiner.
How many abdomens like Nathan's have you examined?
A few hundred,
A few hundred?
400 maybe.
These are good lawyers, I
Did you have
think.
discussions with your daughter about this case?
About my findings, yes.
What'd y'all talk about
What my findings were,
specifically?
what's in the letter.
Read the letter to her? Was it a more informal conversation?
I discussed my findings and I read, and gave her, she has a copy of the letter.
Did she see any prior drafts of this letter?
Prior drafts.
Is he eating?
Did she inform you that there was an internal investigation being conducted?
No,
Did you know somebody got fired for this case?
I didn't know that.
You do?
Mhm.
How do you know that?
I believe in talking to Gaither.
What gave to tell you about it?
There was some question about case being reported and the social worker, I believe it was a social worker, who went to review the case. The child wasn't there and they put it off follow-up exams, and during the period of time the child died.
You know the time frame on when he was supposed to follow up?
Oh, yeah.
I think it was a week before the injury and the death.
So she talked to you in some detail.
A little bit, yeah.
What else did she say?
All I remember.
No, neither of
The
them have been in.
pathologist said this injury occurred more than 72 hours before the death. Based on a review of the tissue slides, you would have to defer to that pathologist.
No,
Why?
because I don't believe there's any such report, nor do I believe the time frame would be any different, nor is there tissue examinations that I'm aware of that would suggest that.
But if I tell you today that Dr. Hunsaker is in agreement with that statement, you would disagree with him?
Yes.
You weren't aware he looked at the tissue slides, were you?
I don't know if he has or not. I don't remember if they were in the report or not.
You never even called him, right?
Did I call Hunsinger? No.
That wouldn't have been important to talk to the person who conducted the autopsy?
No,
Why?
because I have his report. His information's in his report.
Did you notice in his report that there were
See, they can take the information that was in the report and they can twist it to how and make it apply how they want to make it apply. If he would have called that doctor and actually talked to him and, had a conversation, then that doctor would have been able to clarify, or even challenge what this guy was wanting to say. So, that was for a reason.
no tissue slide examination?
I don't remember the report.
Because you don't do pathology, right?
I'm not a pathologist, no.
Tell me your basis for telling me that results of these tissue slide examinations are irrelevant based on your opinion.
In my experience, children who receive this type of injury that perforates the intestines do not survive without treatment more than the period of time we're talking about.
Then we get into this whole delayed rupture, right?
You brought that up.
You've heard of it, right?
There are some suggestions of it.
The injury happens well outside this 48-hour window you discussed, and then within the 48-hour window is when the rupture occurs.
Yes.
That would be a delayed rupture situation.
Okay.
And what basis do you have for telling us that this is not a delayed rupture situation?
In a delayed rupture, there would be still evidence of injury to the abdomen.
What kind of evidence?
Distension, bruising, vomiting.
Of course, if no doctor examined it, that wouldn't have been documented.
But a doctor did examine it.
Doctor didn't examine him, it wouldn't be documented.
Yes. Well, nobody examined it, yes, that would be true.
Sometimes doctors make mistakes, though, right?
Yes,
Sometimes doctors don't do everything they're supposed to do during the course of it. So your opinion is based on truth and the credibility of the records you have before you, right?
yes,
Because you didn't treat Nathan,
no,
you didn't examine Nathan.
no.
All you did was look at records created by other doctors, right? Does your CV that you discussed have an employment resume on it?
Have a what?
Employment resume on it?
Yes,
I think it's imperative that we see that CV, and I think given the state of technology as we have it now, I would request that the Commonwealth use its resources to get that CV printed for us.
I join in. Just cause it's on a floppy disk doesn't mean you can't recover.
Always somebody that's probably got that stuff around somewhere to make a copy and get around to it. It just, after finding them probably.
and I'd have to locate the flock. We've moved,
That would be the key part, locating.
we've moved since that happened.
Well, you still have to,
You have no problem providing a floppy to the Commonwealth to get it.
Not if I can find it, yes. There are some other places one could look, I guess.
I'm having a really, really hard time and a big problem with this. It doesn't matter, like you still have to abide by the rules and the regulations and the policies and the procedures and the laws of the court. Like you still are not above the law. Any of them. But yet, oh, let's just use these old people. It's not like we're not trying to throw two people in prison for life. No big deal. Several of you said this is the perfect example of the good old boys club. And that's exactly right. This is what you are looking at. This is the good old boys club of Rowan County, Kentucky.
Sally Wojcicki.
Yeah, Lexington.
Yeah, she resides there, I believe she,
Used to work at the county attorney's office.
that's correct. I may have records of a case that
It'd be
I was
contained.
involved with in Ashland, that could be the CV there. If they
Curtis might be able to assist us in that one.
I heard that case about 12 years ago.
Yeah.
So I moved to admit letter.
It's there. It's exhibit 1 and
So, doctor, if your testimony today is if Nathan would have been properly and the injury had already occurred.
yes,
What did you indicate the symptoms would have been?
extension, tenderness, probable bruising. There would have been, if he was septic, there would have been other signs of that. In his general appearance, his behavior, vomiting,
Ear infection?
ear infection related to abdominal rupture. No.
I'm asking you to take a look at this. And first thing I'll ask you to do is pronounce the title of this journal, because I'm not sure I can.
American Journal of Retinology. That's right. Review
Please tell me who that's written by.
Carlos J. Savit.
It's a doctor, right? Claims to be anyway.
I don't know.
Does he have MD by his name?
No,
Where does he work?
It says he's at the Department of Radiology, Division of Pediatric Radiology, Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospital.
You ever heard of that place before?
Yes.
I'll ask you to turn to page 19. Smart. I've underlined a sentence there. Can you read that aloud?
The clinical diagnosis of bowel injury may be challenging. Clinical signs and symptoms may be absent, minimal, or delayed.
This was, looks like, published, at least accepted for publication November 25, 2008. You ever read this article before?
No,
Okay. I was going to take a look at the following, the sentence right after that underlined sentence that you just read. What does it say?
therefore CT plays an important role in the diagnosis.
Without
I haven't read the whole article. Don't ask me to comment on based on one sentence in the article, please.
Well, just, it says here, the clinical diagnosis of bowel injury may be challenging. Clinical signs and symptoms may be absent, minimal, or delayed. Therefore, CT plays an important role in the diagnosis. And CT, at least what Dr. Sivit's saying is, CT plays an important role in the diagnosis of bowel, right?
That's what you're reading to me, yes.
I mean, do you dispute that's what it says?
No,
Either that. Or they introduce an article. Yeah. Read that.
Sure you want copies, right?
Yeah, it'd be nice.
Judge, I'd like to have a copy of that.
It'll be two, we'll make it part of the record, and everybody can get copies they want.
Thank you.
Tell me, Doctor, how is it not plausible that it can cause this injury?
small calf could have caused this injury, but not a week and a half before his death.
Despite of what a pathologist might say.
I don't know what any pathologist has said concerning that.
As I discussed before, I have reasonable belief that Dr. Hunsaker will testify at the trial of this matter that this injury occurred more than 72 hours from the time of making the statement.
I have no idea what Dr. Hunsinger will testify to.
Look, if you would, please comment or tell me what you think about what I just said. Dr. Hunsaker, I have good belief to think he's going to testify to that at trial. Would you dispute that?
I don't know that I have a factual basis to answer that question at this point in time,
Because what?
because I don't have a factual basis to answer that question. It's outside the realm of what I know and my experiences.
So you wouldn't defer to Dr. Hunsaker because he has looked at these slide tissues and he's a trained pathologist and that's what he does for a living? You wouldn't defer to him on that issue?
Not necessarily, no.
So what facts do you need to make that determination?
I need to review what evidence you're talking about. And I
You
will,
qualified to look at slide tissues?
Yeah.
So that means you're not able to comment on what Dr. Hunsaker.
not necessarily so.
What way?
Again, you're bringing up hypotheticals that you're asking me to respond to.
I am.
And I don't respond to hypotheticals because that's not in the realm of what I'm dealing with, what I know. We deal with factual information and experience information. Now, if Dr. Hunsinger has said that, I would like to see his report of that. None of the information I was presented in any way suggests that, nor have I seen anything from Dr. Hunsinger in his report to suggest that.
to get, I understand. But with regard to the cause of death, Dr. Hunsaker is going to testify that the injuries occurred more than 72 hours prior to his death, based on his review of the slide tissue. Would you not be required to defer to him?
No,
Why not?
because I'm not aware that he has expertise to say that, nor am I aware that there's any evidence in the literature to support that.
But you're not qualified to look at slide tissue.
I am not a pathologist.
Typically, pathologists determine cause of death.
Sometimes.
When don't they?
But there are times when they not have enough of the history. You can't make determinations necessarily just on the body itself. There are times when history is important and previous exams are important in determining why the patient died. I have had cases in which the pathologist initially disagreed with my diagnosis on the cause of death, but after review agreed.
How many times is that?
A few times.
When? I didn't figure you could. I don't have anything further to that. Let's just strike that comment.
We'll strike that, no, any, and redirect.
I just have a couple questions. Doctor, I believe you testified both in response to Mr. Shields' question as well as Mr. Curtis's question that, and you correct me if I get any of this wrong, I tried to write it down, that some of the symptoms, what you would expect to see with someone who had the septicemia would be distension in the abdomen.
Yes.
Some tenderness in the abdomen. Correct?
Yes.
Could also potentially have a fever.
Yes. Heartbeat, low temperature.
Okay. Do you recall offhand, and I realize you don't have the records here, I think that's been well established today, but do you recall any of the records from UK that were provided from the visit Friday before Nathaniel's death on Monday that indicated any of those symptoms?
No.
And if those symptoms were not present, would that not support your opinion that this occurred 24 to 48 hours prior?
Yes.
Now, also, Mr. Shields asked you about what Dr. Hunsaker may or may not testify. In his report, does he not say that it is possible that it was the injury from the cat that caused this death? He can't rule it out. I won't say that it's possible. You can't rule it out.
I don't remember the specific language.
I'm in tears. So awful.
The additional comment from Dr. Hunsaker under his conclusion on page 4. If you could just read that first paragraph.
Autopsy findings alone do not permit a conclusion as to the mechanism or manner by which the abdominal injuries came about. Although impacts from a blunt object by another person or persons cannot be ruled out, neither other inflicted accidental blunt trauma nor a fall against the blunt object can be excluded.
So basically, Dr. Hunsaker is stating by his own report that the autopsy report alone cannot give him the evidence needed to determine what caused this child's death. And that's where you have stated today, numerous times, I believe, that you needed to look at the entire record, specifically prior examinations of this child, as well as what Dr. Hunsaker found in his autopsy, correct?
That's correct.
It would be a totality of all of that evidence based on your experience and your education as to how you arrived at your opinion on this May 2nd, 2010 letter, correct?
That's correct.
Shields.
Do you believe this injury was inflicted by a human?
Yes.
How?
Beating, kicking,
Which one?
punch with a fist, kick with a foot,
Which one?
any or all.
Can't determine which method, right?
What object was used to beat him? No.
What evidence do you have that this beating occurred?
A physical exam at the hospital, at the autopsy.
Nothing further.
I do have one other question. The question was asked to you earlier about the doctors not reporting. You read all the records provided to you, correct? Were you aware that the emergency room doctor that examined Nathaniel when he was brought in suspected abuse?
Yes.
Were you aware that Dr. Burroughs?
Well, Judge, he's leading at this point.
They asked the question, Judge, about the doctors and their requirement to report this. And the whole thing is that they're trying to argue that nobody else suspected abuse and that this has come out of left field, and it's there. It's in the detective's report as to what the doctor stated. I believe it's in the document.
But that was after the fact.
Dr. Burroughs wasn't after the fact.
At least what I understanding is how the social worker got fired. But
My question is, given that information that was found in the records, that I'm not asking you to comment on what they said to the detective or what the records said, but you're not the only one that shares that opinion.
That's true.
Yeah. It's interesting to note that you believe it was either a fist, someone hitting the child, and obviously you're referring to an adult, correct? Not another child, correct?
As I understand the case, this would be an injury from an adult. Yeah.
From an adult. And either by fist or by kicking, correct?
No, that's not an exclusive list. Somebody could have taken a baseball bat and chained it into his head.
Baseball bat, okay.
A blunt object, it has many definitions.
Now, if the child was kicked, you would expect other injuries to the abdomen other than what you heard, correct?
No,
You would expect to see some damage to the rib cartilage, wouldn't you?
no,
Not necessarily.
not necessarily.
Rib cartilage is just right above where this injury occurred, isn't it?
That's true.
And there wasn't any damage to the rib cartilage, was
Not that I remember.
there? And there wasn't any damage, and also wasn't the spleen on the right side,
Spleen's on the left side.
left side, liver's on the right side.
Usually, not always.
Wasn't any damage to the liver either, was there?
Not that I remember.
No further questions.
anybody else? They said, thank you. No other evidence for purposes of this hearing, Mr. Golden. Curtis Shields, any evidence to offer for purposes of the Daubert hearing?
No, Judge. This was basically so we can get an expert now.
Based on the testimony of the doctor, his experience, his education, his prior testimony in other cases, his work with the LAPD Child Abuse Center, his work with Michigan. I think he pretty well qualified his testimony today and what he based on. Happy about his opinion, and as we showed with Dr. Hunsaker, requires more than just the slide tissue or the autopsy. It requires totality, which is what he is trained in. He's trained in pediatric critical care. He's seen these type of injuries. He stated that he tested that he has treated over 18,000 children, testified in several cases, treated a few hundred cases of this type of injury. Clearly, he should be qualified to testify as to his opinion, how he arrived at that opinion. And if they wish to retain an expert to contradict that, then so be it. That's why we have trials. See anything that they have shown to disqualify him from being able to testify based on his education.
Judge, one thing that does give me concern is that time period that he's granting this within 24 to 48 hours is the theory, you know. It's almost like a supposition without more. I don't know where this standard came from, other than he's basing it just on the peculiarity maybe of this particular case. I don't know the technique. I don't know the literature that he's relied on. I don't know if it's been tested or measured or accepted. And the criteria for arriving at this. So I think there's a lot of loose ends, there's a lot of suppositions on the doctor's part without it being generally accepted within the medical community.
I can't believe any of them.
I've never seen an expert get qualified without even having a CV.
Yeah.
I would hope that the court would wait for the production of that CV before making it. I also think the court should consider the fact that every time we ask Dr. Koenig to support his opinions, he didn't remember what supported it. I think that should be a very serious concern. This is a problem because I'm well aware that Dr. Hunsaker is going to contradict this time. You know, Dr. Koenig didn't even discuss the matter with Dr. Hunsaker. And the methodologies simply have not been proven in this court.
Dr. Hunsaker talked to Dr. Burroughs. But just a point taken, but.
Well, Judge, I mean,
Well, as even stated in the document, report, it requires more than an autopsy to determine that. And he did contact anybody else. Now, I'm not debating whether or not Dr. Hunsaker can testify to what, other than what's in his report. But, you know, he himself admitted in his own requires more information, which this doctor did. He reviewed all the records. What Dr. Hunsaker? I don't think it's always necessary that they communicate with each other when the records are available.
I'll just state for the record, I don't think Dr. Koenig is qualified to testify as a cause, especially without having reviewed any of the slide tissue samples in this case. I think that is most important.
Well, I mean, really, as to cause of death, there is no dispute in reviewing these facts. I mean, are the Daubert issues at this point.
The cause of the injury. It's
Right.
The issue.
Well, and I don't think there's any great dispute as to the cause of the injury. I think the dispute goes as to what element, person, animal, or whatever caused the injury and the time period. Now, apparently, Dr. Hunsaker is going to dispute the time period.
Right.
And I guess the issue about delay that's Dr. Koenig also discussed that as well. You know, there's no wound up tight package to any of this at this point, arguably, and arguably that's going to be the main argument that either of y'all have on behalf of your clients in a jury trial. But Mr. Curtis at least is getting an expert in and address that in addition. But Daubert's the gatekeeping mode, and at this point, Dr. Koenig is he a qualified medical professional? As a physician? Sure, he's been certified as a pediatrician, has worked in that field. Some of this isn't brain surgery, I guess, but it's not really brain. I mean, obviously a perforated lower intestine, duodenum, colon, whatever you got, is going to cause a problem. I mean, if you spill out the contents of any of that part of the human body into the surrounding area, you're going to have an immediate problem that needs to be addressed quickly. And there's nothing new about that. It's been fact ever since humans developed. Probably applies to about any other mammal, at least, if not several other members of the animal kingdom. But if that spills out, then you're a had lad, I guess, in many ways at some stage. And if had a case some years ago in Montgomery County, a fellow was shot with a 22 that basically came down because the guy was bent over looking through the window. It traveled all the way down the side. It zipped the whole intestinal tract out nearly. Probably some delay with the people around getting him to medical help, and was subsequently brought in. A surgeon in Mount Sterling spent hours sewing him up and cleaning him out. And I think by all accounts did an expert job. And after 17 days, the fellow still died. Just because and this was within, I think there was some questions whether it was half hour to 2 hours delay of getting him brought in from the scene of the shooting. But there's nothing new about that. Now, again, the cause of that and the timing of the cause is obviously an issue. Does this gentleman have information to provide to that might be helpful and relevant under 702? Sure. I think there's that. Does Dr. Hunsaker have some of that? Sure, he's got that. If you bring an expert in who's qualified medical personnel, they can have opinion. They're probably going to be too. I think at this point for the gatekeeping mode now, prior to being qualified as an expert for trial purposes, we probably need a CV. At this stage, I think there's enough there to indicate that he meets the qualifications under Daubert to have that testimony come in, condition upon him being qualified as an expert for trial purposes. Otherwise, again, apparently he's got his floppy disk if he can find it, but otherwise that information is probably available.
Now, see, that there is no way in hell this man should have been approved as an expert witness. No way, no way, no way should he have been approved, in my opinion. I'm no lawyer, but that is absolutely ridiculous. Now, remember, this is in 2010, you guys. This judge is no longer on the case. There's been like 8 judges or something. There might not have been that many, but there have been a lot. There have been so many judges on this case, and they're off. Well, now there's a new judge that's been assigned, and there is a hearing scheduled. It's coming up, I think, next month. But we're gonna go through a lot of these videos that we have on this case to get us ready for the new trial, because we're 15 years in on this case right here. And this is going to be one of the biggest cases that we're going to follow, because we have so much history in this case, and we have so much research, and we have so many documents. And these kids are innocent. Well, they're not kids anymore. They're almost my age. They're probably, I think Brian is in his 40s now. Yeah, his early 40s. These guys are, this has taken their entire life. This has taken their entire life.
Mr. Curtis will be looking when he gets back to Ashland, because he apparently remembers the time period on that roughly. So.
Yeah.
And none of these other people are going to be on this case now. Goldie, the prosecutor that we're watching right here, he's in prison. Remember, he's in prison. He was trying to trade SMEX pictures from people. Dirty old man, just like we see going on down here. I think that the old man was Goldie's friend. I think they were friends. I think that even though he was a good lawyer and he had really good questions, and I think he did the best that he could, but I think he was friends with the other side. No way should this case have gotten as far as what it did. The people that are on the other side of this are staying silent too. You know, they're kind of pressured and pushed into a corner as well. If they did say anything, they're going to be isolated. They're going to probably lose their job, you know. So people tend to just shut up and go along. Go along to get along.
The only other issue that come up, I would assume, and maybe I'm assuming too much, maybe Mr. Curtis should for me, but because Mr. Curtis has requested the voluminous information that Dr. King has, that he would provide it from Ms. Baird from Social Services, which I believe is the same information that they have already been provided. However, I don't want to state that for certain because I don't know exactly what was provided to him. I would assume.
I tend to agree with them that the body of information he received, and again, may be duplicative of what's already been provided.
But to be on the safe side, I realize we're dealing with.
It may not, but it may be some additions that we don't have.
It may be, and because we are dealing with two individuals charged with murder, I would prefer to be better safe than sorry. So, however, we have a trial date scheduled in December. I don't know
I was
exactly.
gonna ask you,
That's kind of, I figured that's the assumption I was going to. If Dr. Koenig could tell us when he gets back and can let me know how long he thinks it may take for him to get this copy and at what cost per copy. Basically, when I say per copy, I mean per total copy of
Right.
everything, because we're going to need at least 3 copies. If he could email that information to me, I will then provide that to both defense counsel so that we can provide payment for that to have that copy sent to us. Also, when Dr. Koenig finds his CV, he will provide that, either the disc or the CV to me. If he can't get it off the disc, send the disc to us. We will take it to the lab and have them pull it off. And then we will provide a copy both to the court and to the defense counsel.
one thing about the expert, I want to make sure our expert has exactly.
I understand that, and I respect that, and I would be, if I was sitting on that table, I'd be doing the same thing.
And again, I would agree with them that the comprehensive.
The majority of the information should be the exact same.
Right, it should be, there may
a
be.
document or something that we don't have.
But he received a packet of information or
Well, and I'm pretty,
information to review.
well, I'm curious
Social
too.
services, not from.
Right.
Well, I'm curious too, because we have the same information that they have. And I want to make sure we don't have something, that we're not
Sure.
missing something.
But need to make sure those T's are crossed.
You're talking, today is, we're the 20th of October, to be able to have that information available to the defense and then allow them to get an if that. triggers-
December is not looking like.
December's not, there's no way that's
That's
going to work.
for sure.
And that's what we said when we first said,
Right.
Well,
Let's just keep
I just wanted
saying.
that- I just wanted that on the record so that we know, we're attempting to get that information, but that will necessitate a continuance of this trial. And as long as there's not objection, there was no, that Mr. Curtis doesn't sound like he is.
No.
Just wanted to
I think
make.
Mr. Heeman's been listening and has arrived with our calendar there.
And honestly, I don't know at this point that we can even set a trial date until we know the extent of that information and then how long it may take their expert to be able to look at this.
Well, my suggestion is we probably keep it on our December docket for status, which is December
Yeah,
10th. Well, no, it'll be the 17th probably.
17th, that'd be fine.
Put it on that day for status, and then we can review that, because obviously, in this particular case, for scheduling purposes, we need to know more of that information before we schedule it. It's, obviously, that's going to pertain to the length of trial and.
Unless Mr. Curtis and Mr. Shields have other cases that day, if it's a situation where Mr. Curtis is attempting to get an expert and he's still reviewing information and it's not ready, he wouldn't necessarily have to come to court.
I think that's, again, that we can,
Save him the trip.
Right.
and I mean, we're going to get dates at that point, probably 5-6 months out at the very earliest. And, if one of them can appear, they may have the other one's calendar and or at least a copy of their calendar to review and have that available. But I mean, we're looking at scheduling this for, if they get at least one expert on that side, we're probably in a 2-week trial.
Easy.
At least.
At least,
If they both get experts, I would imagine
We'll make it 3 weeks. But
I mean, we're gonna have to set aside at least 3 weeks.
my
it's
only
difficult on our scheduling, but we'll find it. So,
My only concern.
Now, when's the new courthouse coming in?
March.
Oh, we'll have it ready by the time we try this one. That's the way it's going. It should be ready. It should be open by 1st of March, ready to move into the 1st of March, looks like at this stage.
Where's my concern with a trial date, even though I know we said it's maybe a few months away? It's the entire month of February, I am scheduled in the fast web trial so far.
No, we're not gonna try this in February if we're scheduled
Well,
in
but
December.
I prefer not to have to do it in March either.
Well, March is not around, Kelly.
Okay,
yet.
I just
Anyway,
no, that's.
it'd either be February or April or June would be the first 3 months we're looking at. And February's pretty well scheduled up, and April is already written there. So June would probably be the most likely as it stands right now. We'll just put that on 11, 17th.
11 a.m., Judge?
Yes.
With regard to this employee that was fired. And I also think we're entitled to the entire,
All right, let's see what he
with
said.
regard to this,
Okay.
We're almost
based
there.
on, Mr. Gardner's testimony at the bond hearing. Dr. Koenig got involved in this case because he was, Burnham, who was Dr. Koenig's daughter, was counseled with families and children based on Dr. Koenig's testimony today, that he is aware that someone was fired over this case, and that he had discussions with Mr. Baer regarding this case. I think that we're entitled under Barroso to any and all investigations that took place within the cabinet with regard to this employee that was fired. And I also think we're entitled to the entire file that social services has with regard to
Judge, I join in that, and I think Barroso, at least, if the court is of the opinion that we shouldn't have it, and Barroso provides for the court to view it in camera.
Judge, I would ask for at best in camera, because I am not aware of anyone being fired specifically because of this case. There were some individuals that were disciplined. Nobody was fired. As a matter of fact, one individual was fired. That decision was overturned by their legal department.
That is correct,
She
yeah.
later was let go for another reason. It was not involving this case. And the other individual, the other worker, was not fired, but was resigned due to some other. There was no specifics as to this case, why anybody was fired.
Well, let's do this. You get your motion in writing, because I think for the cabinet's counsel purposes, you're gonna need that, because even if Commonwealth ain't telling them that, they're probably gonna be going through their counsel anyways. We need that.
Yeah, they'll go through their counsel. That's what they're paid for.
Right.
Judge, in these cases that I've done, the Barroso motion, this is based on Supreme Court precedent. We've always, court went an order granting the motion, but directing the cabinet to turn it over to the court for in camera. And I've never seen the cabinet involved yet.
Well, but you're alleging that somebody was fired, and I don't think they were.
Well, and in all fairness, Cameron, I think that if there was an internal investigation that took place, we're not only entitled to the file with regard to their investigation of this case, but we're also entitled to the internal investigation.
Well, that's why I'm suggesting you get the motion, because I think under where we normally would be, I would just do the order, as Mr. Curtis has suggested, but given that you're throwing in the element of internal investigation as to personnel is adding another element to it. I think that's a difference in Barroso and all that anyway, in some of the previous orders we've done of that nature. So if you just put that, I really have no qualms with doing that, but I think we need to get that all in writing.
Okay.
Because of the personnel side issues of that within the cabinet. So,
Well, I will, I'll just notice that for the 17th.
okay. Or if you just want to file your motion with it, to be heard at convenience, the court let them respond.
Okay.
And my thought is I will enter an order doing that in camera and have those records turned over to the court to review in camera and then provide.
And hopefully we can have a decision on that 17th, so hard delay
Of course,
anything.
our response will be that they, this being camera lit, and if
Right. But
social services legal department wants to file something on there, that's
but because the personnel part of that, that's why I wanted it in writing, because I think
well, there may be some things that were confidential.
that's why I'm suggesting is if it's just investigation as to this case, it'd be one thing. If it's investigation also involves personnel decisions, it's adding a whole different layer to it. And there may be a response from the legal department as to that aspect. And I think by doing that in camera, of course, then they probably take some of their concerns out. But I think it needs to be in writing though. So
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor.
thank you.
All right, guys. That was all of it. That's all of that Daubert hearing. We've got more, or that witness. We've got more. We've got lots more, and we're going to watch it all. Okay. Because this case with Brian and his family has just been devastating, and they should not have lost everything for nothing, you know? So we are absolutely going to get behind this case. This is going to be a big one. There's a lot at stake. You've got 2 innocent people whose lives, one person, now she's took a plea. She's not in jail. They have left her out. She took her plea bargain in 2016. She's not been sentenced yet. I think in her plea bargain, part of her plea bargain has been that she will testify against Brian. Now, nobody knows what she would say, but I think she'll end up getting probation. That's how that usually goes. They one testifies against the other, and they get probation. And, if you've got a prosecutor who's saying, I don't care, this is what you have to say for the deal, well, people are going to say what they have to get the deal, so. And it said that she pled no contest, which is like an Alford plea, I guess. So they're not saying that they're pleading guilty. They're not admitting any guilt. They are just admitting that the prosecution has enough evidence that they would probably be found guilty in a court of law, in a trial. So, let's see. No. All right, guys. I want you all to keep some of our Billies in prayer. Coming up this week, we've got a lot of people who have got surgery scheduled. So make sure that you keep everybody in your prayers. We want to go through here real quick. Let's look and see. Ryan Adams, 31. Became a new member. Pamela Green, 3231. New member. Wendy Snap, new member. United we stand. We know who that is. Thank you for being the voice for so many women. Thank you all for being here. This platform is all of us. Peggy Lee, 3753. Thank you for your super sticker, Miss Peggy. Melanie Rotter, RT, 7TM, gifted 5 Hillbilly Crime memberships. Yay! We love the memberships. Melanie Rotter, for the good fight. Thank you. Thank you for your super sticker. Jojo Gonzin, 3771, became a YouTube member. Kentucky Wild, welcome, welcome, welcome. 5 more Hillbilly Crime memberships. Man, y'all were on fire tonight. Thank you. Carol Cook, today was the last day of the month for, well, actually yesterday was, that wasn't it? Today's the 1st. but the way YouTube does, so it would have been tonight. Like tonight was when I found out what my whole pay was for the month of July. And you know, the Lord is it. We have enough to pay our bills and eat. But that's all I ever asked God for. Lord, help me make enough to pay our bills monthly and make enough money to be able to eat. And I always pray that the Lord provide us enough money to pay for our animal food, you know, be able to just support us all. Oh, hallelujah, hallelujah. Jesus, I thank you for another day being able to come together in your name, Lord. We thank you so much for providing this platform for us, Lord. So many of us are just surviving, Lord. You know, we barely putting one foot in front of the other, barely hanging on by our fingertips, Lord. We can't do it without you, Jesus. I know I sure can't do it without you. And I'm so thankful for your presence in my life. I'm so thankful for the guidance that you give me every day. I'm so thankful for all the lessons that you've put me through. I'm thankful for all that you've allowed me to go through and learn from. The valuable lessons, Lord, that I've been through are just priceless. They're absolutely priceless. And I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for your protection. I'm grateful for your favor. I'm grateful for your blessing, Lord. I pray that you keep your light right at our feet, Lord, right at my feet, so I don't fall off of that path. I pray that you keep me on it, Lord. I pray that you put a watch over my mouth and help me not say the things that I don't need to say, Lord. And I pray that you'll give me the words to be able to say what I do need to say. So many are going in for surgery this week, Lord. I pray that you will go before them. I pray that the Holy Ghost will go before them and will guide the doctor's hands, will give them the knowledge and the wisdom to be able to treat and heal. I pray that you will touch each and every single one of us, Lord, according to our need, which you know each and every single one, Lord. You know how many hairs each of us have on our head. You sure know what our needs are. I pray for those that are unspoken requests tonight, Lord. I pray for our interviews, that you will just help them go without any kind of bumps or bruises, Lord. I pray that you'll keep providing for us, that you'll always make a way. I pray that you will close the doors that no man can open, and that you will open doors that no man can close. Help me to forgive my enemies, Lord. Help me to forgive those who have hurt me. It's not a very easy thing to do, and I need help doing it. I pray that you forgive me for my sins, Lord. I fall short each and every single day, and I pray for your mercy, and I pray for your grace daily. Until we meet again, Lord, I give you all praise, honor, and glory in Jesus' name, amen. All right, let's see. Let's get back over here. We almost done. Sonia Grasky, 376. Thank you. Jojo Guns, and I'm praying for all involved, and thumbs up to our gal. Thank you for your super sticker. John Pettit, 1951. Thank you for your super sticker, honey. Tina Penny, 9405. Thank you for your super sticker. Tina Penny. Look, double mint gum. There we go. Let's see. Miss Christie, one wild case. This one's worth fighting for. It sure is. Thank you for your super sticker. Melanie Rotter, great live. See you on the next one. Rosina Pendle, 1425. All right. Thank you for your super sticker, honey. All right, guys. We will see you on the flip side. We'll see you tomorrow and Sunday. Unless I do end up taking a day off, but you know me, I try not to. Try not to. All right. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace out, Girl Scout. Bye.
You can't hide from hillbilly crime.
You can't hide from hillbilly crime.
You can't hide from hillbilly crime.
You may not know that there's a crew in town. The head hillbillies are making their rounds. Small town whispers loud and clear. The sheriff shot the judge in his chambers chair.
Sheriff got a secret he won't keep. Judge shot dead in his disbelief. A lot of people have some stories to tell. Dark passed away, get the sound of a shotgun shell.
All the secrets spill on down. Voices loud in this old town. From the courthouse to the ground. Rumors fly and they can't be bound.
Neighbors hide behind their blinds. Whisper tales of troubled minds. Skeletons covering the mountainside. A treacherous reality in the pines.
Winter reveals the hidden lies. Moonlight couldn't mask the cries. Shadows caught in sunlit skies.